Yes.
The lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1310 of the news. And we have extremely massive news today. Russia says that NATO's declared war on the Russian Federation effective today. Also, the U.S. military has ordered a major meeting in Virginia, and the Denmark airspace has been breached again as NATO encircles Kaliningrad. And also, while that's happening, we have hit 502,000 subscribers here on the channel, and a big thank you all for making that possible. But Enforcer, what say you?
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world as significant developments have emerged, particularly from the continent of Europe, as we have been able to hear that over the course of the day, the Russian Federation, through the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, speaking on the behalf of the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, has openly declared that NATO is in a state of war with the Russian Federation, and the Russian Federation is now reacting and conducting its manners and foreign policy on such a basis of information. We have also been able to hear additional information that the Russian Federation has also stated, due to a European statement, that any Russian aircraft violating European or NATO airspace, whether aircraft be manned or unmanned, will be shot down. They have responded that any attempts to engage and destroy Russian aircraft, manned or unmanned, will be met with the full military might of the Russian Federation, threatening the complete outbreak of war, although the Russian Federation is already viewing the situation to be a state of war at the moment. The Russian Federation is dealing with significant crises within their borders, as Russian fuel supplies are largely starting to dwindle even inside the capital of Moscow, and the Russian Federation's government and economy are on the absolute precipice of a near collapse. In the meantime, the Russian Federation has conducted another drone incursion into the Kingdom of Denmark over the course of the day, as Danish authorities have stated that while they are not confident in declaring who the state actor is that is violating their airspace, there is another ongoing airspace violation tonight. And according to the Danish police and the Danish government, they are stating that the development and the situation appears to be a directed and coordinated attack against the airspace of Denmark in the vital Strait of Denmark, and a continuing attempt to violate the sovereignty of the nation and to critically impair the strategic interests and military abilities of the nation. At the same time that these statements were being made today, a Russian Ropucha-class landing ship was identified and found by Danish authorities just south of the island of Fyn, directly on the eastern coast of Jutland. The NATO forces are currently conducting an encirclement at this moment of the Kaliningrad exclave, as a large amount of U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentries and those of multiple different allies within the NATO alliance are now conducting orbits and flights around the area. We have also been able to hear that the United States of America, in an unprecedented and incredibly rare move, is calling the United States top commanders from every single command area of responsibility back to the United States for a meeting next week at a Marine Corps base inside of Eastern Virginia. We are unsure what this meeting will be about, but it is proposed and expected that this may be a prelude to war. The United States of America is also continuing to reaffirm its position today, approving a sale of $1.2 billion worth of missiles to the Federal Republic of Germany, while at the same time stating that the Russian Federation is losing ground, and we also conducted a 7,500-mile-long intercontinental ballistic missile test over the course of the night, with the Department of Defense, or the Department of War, as it is now called, publishing that information earlier today. The United Kingdom is seeing the arrival of several U-2 Dragon Ladies, which will be assisting in conducting aerial reconnaissance against the Russian Federation in what we are believing are the final days and weeks heading up to a full-blown confrontation with Russia. The Republic of France has also stated that they are ready to get involved in the defense of Danish airspace, while also stating that drone incursions were spotted around the smaller French town of Mourmelon-le-Grand, which is just southeast of the city of Reims. We have also been able to hear other major developments inside the state of Ukraine, as Ukrainian armed forces have continued to hold their lines today and have inflicted significant casualties onto the Russian Federation's armed forces. We have a huge amount of news today, and these are just some of the major big-ticket items that we are going to be covering here over the past 24 hours of news that has unfolded up until now. I do have to make it quite clear that the situation in Europe at this moment is extremely strenuous, and at this moment is what we could describe as being on the knife's edge of a full-blown war. At this moment, not only does NATO and the Russian Federation largely consider themselves to be in a state of war, we are seeing that continued armed provocations are being conducted by the Russian Federation with manned and unmanned aerial systems, which continue to provoke our alliance into possibly firing upon these aircraft and shooting them down. The question is whether or not the Russian threats at this very moment about going into a full-blown armed confrontation against the West is true if those aircraft are shot down in any way, shape, or form. We are pretty much at this moment at a crossroads in history, one between peace and that of war, and there really is no other way to go about it than rather than to push forward into the unknown of what the future may bring and to face down the Russian Federation and see that they either back down and respect our national sovereignty of our multinational military alliance and economic alliance, the largest and most powerful in the world, or face utter and total destruction at the hands of NATO armed forces. The judgment call will be left up to the Russians, but nevertheless, the pages of history are being written at this moment, and we'll be making sure to cover what is being written in those pages over the course of this night. Moving on into our first and most major part of the news that we have been able to get today, we have been able to hear multiple statements from the Russian Foreign Ministry and other Russian spokespersons, so largely stating that they are in a state of war with NATO once again. And this is an incredibly significant statement considering that it came from the Russian Foreign Minister, the representative of the Russian Federation's government and Vladimir Putin abroad as far as their foreign policy concerns are noted. We were able to hear that according to multiple different quotations today made after Lavrov made statements that they are in an open state of war with the NATO alliance, or they are largely claiming that NATO has gone to war with the NATO alliance and that they will be making a response in some way, shape, or form to that ongoing escalation, while apparently Twitter is having some significant server issues and none of these posts are loading, at least at the moment. Unfortunately, we will be having to wait and see if those will load. It's quite weird that they're not at the moment. And also, Enforcer Man, are you having an issue getting on Twitter at the moment?
So right now it looks like I can get on there. It looks like it's loading fine for me. So you might have to close out and then reopen it again. That should maybe fix it.
And we will be waiting to see. We'll actually be canceling that right there and trying to refresh. A little bit odd that this is happening in the middle of the stream. Twitter was working just fine for me earlier. That's how I was compiling the news and making sure to get this all up and out there so that way y'all can all see the direct quotations. But oddly enough, it does not appear that Twitter is working for me, at least at the moment, although all systems on the computer are updated. So somewhat odd with that.
So what you'll need to do is you'll probably need to close out your entire browser and close the whole application and reopen it. It'll probably fix it.
We can't do that because there's some sensitive stuff on the home screen that people can't see. So we can't close down the browser because they're just going to see the browser outright. So we're just going to have to continue forward with the quotes. You can click on the map in the link in the description below and see the quotes for yourself, but we're just going to have to press forward nonetheless, whether or not Twitter is working, at least on my end. Nevertheless, the Russian foreign minister did make statements today stating that they are in a direct state of war with NATO as a result of their actions. We were able to hear further information that the Russian Federation did state a direct warning, at least in response to a European statement made today, that any attempts to shoot down their aircraft will be met with a force of arms. This is something that is incredibly significant, at least at the moment, as European officials did directly state to the Russian Federation today through official channels that any attempt by Russian manned or unmanned aircraft will be met with a direct response by the NATO alliance and by the European Union, as they will attempt to shoot down those Russian aircraft. This is an incredibly significant development and is making it clear, at least for the moment, that the European Union's part in NATO will not be allowing any further Russian air incursions to be conducted within their skies or their airspace from this point forward. That is an incredibly large and significant development, at least at the moment, and we are, of course, waiting to see what exactly will be happening as a result of that. Really quickly, folks, I'm actually going to take this off screen and see if Twitter will load in another way, and oddly enough, it still is not loading. That is incredibly weird, and I do not know why. The reason why I can't show y'all my home screen, folks, is because there are actually some sensitive files there from other agencies like the IRS and so on that are on the main screen, so I can't really close this and show y'all because it would show those files and a small little version of the PDFs in them. That's why I can't really close the screen down here on air and to be able to just try and restart the browser. There would be a great deal of issues with that because those files are literally right there for everyone to see. So that's generally why I cannot do that at the moment. But nevertheless, we are also hearing additional statements that the Russian Federation is making in response to the NATO alliance at this moment, and it does appear that those are incredibly provocative against our forces. To basically explain what we are hearing and seeing right now at the moment, we are starting to hear that if the Russian Federation conducts another air incursion into the NATO alliance, they will be flying through the airspace and not be threatened or shot down. If those aircraft are threatened or shot down by NATO forces, the Russian Federation is stating that they will move on from the state of war that they say that they are in with NATO and into a full-blown armed confrontation with the entirety of the NATO alliance and open up a larger conflict throughout the entirety of Eastern Europe. This is an incredibly large and dangerous action, and it is one that we have to lay out. This is quite literally the very edge of war. We are not entirely sure if the Russian Federation is going to actually follow through with that threat if the European alliance or NATO as a whole does shoot down one of those aircraft, but it is generally laying it out, at least from what we can tell right now, that a full-blown war may occur if we shoot down one of their aircraft, but we really have no other choice in the meantime. If we do not engage and shoot down these Russian aircraft, we are largely allowing the Russian Federation to violate the sovereignty of each nation inside of the NATO alliance and treat them as if they do not exist. That is a situation that we cannot allow, as that is laying out a precedent that the NATO alliance, each country inside of it, is entirely on their own and will have to largely fend for themselves and also may or may not be recognized as a legitimate state by the Russian Federation. Those sorts of situations are incredibly grave and dire, and that's largely why we would be forced, or the European nations would be forced into engaging and shooting down these Russian aircraft, whether they be manned or unmanned, for example, the MiG-31s or the Shahed-style drones that we've been hearing about recently that have been violating the airspace of multiple countries within Eastern Europe and now also Denmark as well. But before we get on into the rest of the developments that we have been able to hear today, Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So today we did hear that apparently the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov is the one that made these statements allegedly. He said today that NATO has declared war on Russia and NATO is participating on an active war against the Russian Federation as the escalations are boiling over. So what happens now? Now that these wild statements have been made by the Russians, what even happens? And it looks like 41% said Russia is about to strike NATO, and 27% said Russia is just yapping with words, and 25% said it seems like Russian posturing. Now, to me, this is about as inflammatory of a statement that Russia could possibly make outside of actually directly declaring war on NATO. Because what are they supposed to do with this? Now that they say that NATO is waging a war on Russia, that means essentially the two nations or the two groups are at war with one another. So that would give Russia the right to respond to NATO like it's an adversary state and launch attacks on them. And I think we're already seeing that right now. I think Russia is waging a covert war against NATO, and we're seeing that through different means. Like, for example, drone attacks, we're seeing it through airspace incursions, and we're also seeing it through very secret sabotage attempts on these different manufacturing plants around Europe. So I think the war has begun in its own right. It's not the war we're familiar with, but it's a new type of war that's fought in 2025 that is a covert sabotage war. So I'm actually with the 42%. Russia is striking NATO right now in a new age type of way, and this is the new way warfare is going to be fought until it turns into an outright traditional hot war. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would also like to give you all a brief note really quickly, considering that we have been dealing with some technical issues at the start of the stream. I went and checked the down detector, and it actually appeared that Twitter was having a significant server outage during the period when we started the stream, which is incredibly unfortunate. It was working on Matthew's end, for some reason not on mine, but it does appear that it is finally working because it is loading up the statements and information that we need to cover the news, which is incredibly helpful, considering that we have to show you all a large amount of picture and video evidence that was compiled from Twitter over the course of the day. Nevertheless, I would have to state that I would be with the 42%. Russia is about to strike NATO. I do not really think that there's much of a question at this point whether or not that's going to happen. It is more so a question of when it's going to start happening. The Russian Federation is continuing to posture itself in an incredibly dangerous and provocative way against those NATO nations in the eastern parts of Europe, and now directly along the major shipping channels heading out of the Baltic Sea and into the greater Atlantic through the North Sea. This is clearly showing us that the Russian Federation is going out of its way to create some form of an armed provocation against NATO, and they are looking for some sort of an excuse or some sort of a reason for a war to kick the entire thing off, or as some people would call it, a casus belli, which is Latin for a cause of war. Nevertheless, I would have to say that it does appear quite obvious that the Russian Federation is about to strike NATO, and NATO isn't really making a great defense in its own sense to stop a Russian attack against the alliance. Let's look at this really quickly from a more pragmatic perspective. When we have seen the drone violations in Poland, in Romania, and in the Baltic states, the MiG-31s that flew through the Estonian airspace, and also the endless amounts of drone incursions that are now happening in the Kingdom of Denmark and the Kingdom of Norway, there is very little of a NATO response or a NATO ability to detect these drones in the first place. This pretty much means that if these are Russian drones, which they most certainly are at this point, that these Russian drones will be able to make it to their targets and hit them before anyone even knows that they're there. They can cause a crippling blow and a great deal of damage to most countries inside of Eastern Europe and within key areas that the Russian Federation would like to target, because as Denmark is showing, they don't even know that the drones are flying into the country or that they are there until they are flying over a place like an airfield or an airport or a military air base that the Danish Air Force is operating out of. And they can't even scramble their Air Force to respond to a drone attack if the Russians wanted to conduct one, because by the time that the drones are spotted, they're literally flying right over the airfield that those Danish aircraft would be scrambled from. That is an incredibly dangerous sort of a situation, and it's one that puts Russia at such an advantageous position, it would really beg the question on their end, why wouldn't they go ahead and conduct a provocative action such as an armed attack against NATO? It is quite clear that they have no way to respond to drone forces, and drone forces, at least in their unconventional form that we've been seeing for the past several years in Ukraine, could cause tenfold more damage than any sort of cruise or ballistic missile fire from the Russian Federation, because we have practically no defenses at this moment against such an attack anywhere inside of Europe. And before some people like to say that we do have electronic warfare interference systems and drone jamming technology. At this moment, every single one of those systems is in a prototype phase or in a prototype stage. That means that they are not fielded in incredibly large numbers. As a matter of fact, they aren't fielded at all. Those are what we would call experiments. A prototype exists as one or two systems that are in testing and are not in mass production and are not used by a military on the field. For a nation in Europe or in North America to say that we have adequate electronic warfare drone defense systems, we would have to have a system that is already mass produced and fielded amongst the entirety of our armed forces throughout the entirety of our alliances and multiple nations that make up the North Atlantic Treaty Organization to be able to say that we are Loctite defended against a Russian drone attack. That is some sort of an ability that we do not possess at this moment, and we are still years away from being able to possess on a major industrial scale. That is why we need to see that these NATO countries, in the little time that we have left, takes pages out of the Ukrainian war book and begins to implement the technical-based machine gun, well, the trunk-mounted machine gun-based air defense systems that the state of Ukraine has been using to extremely great effect throughout the entirety of the war. The Ukrainian drone interception rates are about as high as they can get. The Russians can fire about 600 drones over the course of the night, and Ukraine will be able to shoot down about 570 of those with the types of air defense systems that they have, which once again are machine guns mounted in the back of pickup trucks. That is an incredibly effective, cheap, and easy to implement air defense system for the entirety of our alliance, the entirety of the nations in our Western sphere, and one that could be rolled out tomorrow and is not years away from being able to be introduced. That is something that we need to
honestly,
see.
They do need a stopgap measure, something in the short term. They really do need to get on that. But really, if you zoom out for a second, I was just thinking about this. Y'all might remember a couple of months back, we were discussing what might happen if Russia wanted to expand the war. Let's say they get desperate inside of Ukraine, which currently they're extremely desperate right now. The front line is completely stalemated. And also, Russia is suffering economically in their own country very bad with a gas crisis and now a banking crisis that is currently in the works. So we were discussing months ago, what would Russia do to expand it? And we said, and I personally said, Russia will probably end up lobbing a missile or a drone into the Baltics, and that might trigger a NATO response. Well, it turns out they lobbed some drones into, I believe it was Lithuania, if I have it correctly. I can't keep them straight between Latvia and Lithuania. They lobbed a drone in there, and actually lobbed several in there. And then they also lobbed at least 19 plus drones into Poland as well, which I was not expecting. That even went more over the top than I expected. And so far, the NATO response has been Article 4, which is a consultation, but nothing more than that. It's been Article 4. And so far, as a result of Article 4 consultations, NATO has really not agreed to take any definitive action against the Russians. They still can't get on the same page about shooting down Russian fighter jets over NATO airspace. So far, countries like Germany are waffling on that. They won't get on the same page. And even though the U.S. has given their blessing to shoot down the Russian jets, they're still not on the same page. So it's kind of interesting that we've gotten this far down the road in the chain of escalation, and so far, NATO has not taken a strong stance as of yet, which is kind of fascinating. I was expecting a stronger stance than this, but I'm not sure how much farther Russia can push it without maybe Article 5 being invoked. I'm not really sure what that red line is at this point, but Enforcer, what do you think it is?
I would have to say I really do not know at this moment. It is a very tough sort of a situation to call, and the NATO alliance continuously sees that its boundaries are pushed farther and farther by the Russian Federation, and we're really eroding away our ability of an alack to respond. We have to eventually respond because the Russians are starting to conduct more and more provocative actions, pretty much forcing us into a response. And so I would have to say that I think a red line may actually be another manned air incursion into a NATO country's borders. I think that it may actually be a red line to where we would shoot down a Russian aircraft and pretty much start to take warlike actions directly against the Russian Federation. But even that's a bit of a stretch, because if any sort of an air incursion like that happens, it's going to most likely be happening over the Baltics. And none of the Baltic states have an actual operational air force, at least with fixed-winged aircraft, or for that matter, any large air defense batteries, such as a Patriot air defense system, that would be able to defend their skies and a larger firing arc. Most air defense systems inside the Baltic states are that of SHORADs, which are short-range air defense systems. And those do not have the kind of range to be able to engage in shoot down Russian aircraft that violate their airspace, either at high altitudes or, for that matter, outside of their actual land borders and at sea. Both of those things would be out of the reach of a shore-rat air defense system, meaning that if NATO wanted to shoot down a Russian aircraft that was violating the airspace of the republics of Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania, they would have to deploy aircraft from a neighboring country, like Sweden, for example, with their Gripens, or Italy's F-35s, or, for example, the Dutch F-35s that we saw there previously, that would fly into the area and engage those Russian aircraft that are manned, like the MiG-31s, and shoot them down. I think that's a sort of situation that we can see, but even then, that's stretching it a little bit, because I don't know if those leaders inside of those countries that would pretty much be loaning their aircraft out into the Baltics as air defense would give the orders to shoot down an aircraft that isn't even flying over their own sovereign borders. It's flying over the sovereign borders and airspace of an entirely different country, although it's in the same alliance.
Yeah, honestly, I'm having a hard time believing that NATO is actually going to take the step of shooting down a Russian fighter jet, because so far, Denmark has been invaded. I can't even count how many times they've been invaded at this point by drones in their airspace. They just had another incursion, folks, like less than an hour or two ago. That's how recent the incursions are still happening. They're happening nonstop ever since yesterday morning, actually. So, and that's just these recent ones. There was ones before that, too. So Denmark is being constantly invaded by these drones, and nobody's really concrete sure who it is right now, but I think, in my opinion, I would still say it's probably Russia. I would say that's the high odds of it right now, is it's probably Putin's forces launching these drones. But so far, Denmark has not shot down a single drone over their airspace. So if they can't bring themselves to shoot a drone down, then how are they going to bring themselves to shoot a fighter jet down with a Russian pilot on board? That seems like something to me that it would be a little bit of a far-fetched thing for them to do if they can't even take a drone down.
That's a good question, really, and honestly, that's a good point. And speaking of such provocations that the Russians keep conducting, we have been able to see that in Denmark, once again today, another drone incursion has been conducted across the whole of the country. The Aalborg Lufthaven was once again closed as a result of drones flying over the airspace. We also heard later that the airport was reopened after about an hour and a half closure over the skies of the airfield because of the drone incursions, but further information once again revealed that it was nearly a nationwide blanketing of drones that flew over the area. Denmark did announce over the course of just a few hours ago that the Aalborg Air Base of the Danish Air Force and the Aalborg Airport had both been closed due to drone intrusions by an unknown force. It is quite obvious at this point, folks. I don't really think it's that much of a question that this would have to be the Russians. What other hostile country exists in the area that would be able to launch drones into a country like Denmark that would do it? There's literally no others but the Russians. So if it is a foreign actor that is conducting drone incursions into Danish skies, and this actor would have to be somewhere inside of Europe to at least have the locality, or at least the distance between them, to be able to launch these drones in their airspace, either drone launched or ship launched, and clearly Denmark hasn't pissed off the Islamic Republic of Iran enough for the Iranians to go out of their way to sail a boat all the way up into the North Sea or the Baltic to start launching these drones. So who could it be? I mean, who could it be? There's only one candidate that is within the area. It's not a NATO member, it's the Russian Federation, quite clearly and obviously. And there really is no other question that it could be them at this point. It's quite clear that it is. It just appears that Danish authorities are incredibly hesitant in making that sort of a claim. They are stating, however, that according to the Prime Minister Frederiksen, that a hybrid war is unfolding on Danish soil, and according to Frederiksen, he also stated that I think we are at the beginning of a hybrid war against Europe. I think that we've been in a hybrid war, at least up till now, and this is almost getting into a full-blown war. The Danish have also stated, at least according to the National Police Chief, Thorkild Fode, that why no foreign ships have been boarded despite suspicions of involvement in the investigation, he stated, we don't have the necessary grounds to board foreign ships in Danish waters. There must be suspicion, he stated. And at the moment, we do not know what vessel has been launching these drones into Denmark, whether it's a vessel at all. These drones may actually be launched from a place like Kaliningrad and fly several hundred miles into Denmark and then back out through the Baltics. But one thing happened today that's making me believe that it's not a ghost ship that's launching these drones, nor is it the fact that it's the Russian Federation's forces in the Kaliningrad Oblast under the command, if I'm not mistaken, of the 11th Army Corps. It actually appears to be something a little bit more obvious that's literally sitting off the coast of Denmark right now. Today, spotted along the Danish coast, was a Ropucha-class landing ship. That one right there. That was actually a picture of it taken today by the Danish as it was literally hanging out just south of the Finn Island, east of Denmark, right there. So let me ask you all this something. So over the past few days, we have seen drone incursions at the Copenhagen airport and also on the Swedish side in Malmo, just a few miles to the east. We have seen 2 incursions over the course of yesterday and today that have literally blanketed the entirety of Jutland and the mainland of Denmark itself. And oddly enough, sandwiched amidst all of those drone incursions is a Ropucha-class landing ship that is sitting right there. And it was only found today. So I'm wondering, folks, it's not obvious. It's something that we have to put together and something that we have to think about. But considering that the Russian Federation stated today that they consider themselves to be in a state of war with NATO, and that they're also stating that they are conducting actions in accordance with the mindset that they are in a state of war with NATO, and that there are several drone incursions that have been conducted in Denmark over the course of the past 72 hours, and also the fact that there is a single Russian landing ship directly right there, I mean literally right there, in the middle of all of these attacks. Pretty much every single attack has been conducted in almost a perfect spherical range from this Ropucha-class landing ship. It is incredibly clear at this point that it's not a ghost ship, it's not Kaliningrad that's launching these drones. It is highly likely that Ropucha-class landing ship's sitting right there. I mean, there's no other answer to that. And on top of that, that answers another question. Where in the world did the Russian drones come from that U.S. and German authorities have been talking about that it made it as far in as Frankfurt on Main and Nuremberg? That even answers that question. It most likely was a Ropucha-class landing ship in this exact area, because once again, if you measure out from that area on the map, let me do that really quickly for y'all. If you measure out from that area, which is about right where this marker is, and you measure down to Frankfurt on Main, that's about 331 miles. Now let me ask you this. How far is it from that area to Oslo? It's about the same distance. How far is that to Aalborg? That's only about 180 miles. How far is it over to the areas of the Volhins airfield? About 77. How far is it to Copenhagen? About 105. The Russians have been parking a Ropucha-class landing ship in that very spot for who knows how long, and they just ship it in and ship it out whenever they'd like, launch drones off the deck, and clearly, if they're using any form of a longer-range reconnaissance drone, which would certainly have about a full-scale distance range of about 750 miles, that is exactly where they've been launching them from this entire time. They're flying about 350 miles max, and then they fly back to where they came from, at least from what we're understanding right now. That is smack dab where that ship is, both heading to the Ramstein airfield and also the Oslo International Airport at the max distances that we've seen these drones so far. So it's quite,
I wonder how long that ship has been there, though, because like we see it now, we've heard about it today, but surely it didn't just arrive. Like surely it's been there for a minute or so, and I wonder how long is a minute? Are we talking about days or are we talking about weeks? Because obviously, if you have a Russian Navy ship right on your coast, that would be the first prime suspect that Denmark should be looking at to see if maybe they're launching drones. So the fact they're bringing that up today makes me wonder, is that indeed the vessel that's launching them? Because obviously if it's a military ship, that would be the prime suspect. So I wonder why they took so long to tell us about that.
I'm thinking that they took so long to tell us about it because nobody saw that it was there. That's what I'm actually thinking. I'm thinking that that thing just happened to slip by. Because one thing that I would have to say, folks, is that Germany and Denmark aren't on an extremely high level of alert. They're at a heightened state of readiness, as generally everyone in Europe is at the moment, but they are not at a level of high alert where maritime patrols are being conducted endlessly these days. That's something that we generally know is the case. And so this ship could have just set sail from a place like the Baltic Flotilla, or hell, even taking a venture all the way from Kronstadt Island, or Kronstadt Harbor here in St. Petersburg, all the way through the Baltic, considering that it was traveling through international waters, and right to here. And you know what, folks? This actually begs the bigger question. Let us go and look at the international waters of the Baltics. Let's go and look at that really quickly, because maybe this thing is sitting in some sort of a little enclave of international waters that exists in that area. So let's go and look at the international waters of the Baltic Sea, and let's see what we get. So,
Also, Enforcer, before you show that real quick, I do want to share with the audience a piece of breaking news right now. For a very rare instance, I actually have an eyewitness report from a viewer here on the channel who lives in Denmark. And once again, this is an eyewitness report coming from one of our viewers, so take it for what you will. Right now, we're being told that apparently near Egtved, Denmark, if I'm saying that properly, our viewer says that he just saw a big drone apparently fly over his house 2 minutes ago. And apparently, this is near another airport. So, Enforcer, can you find that location on the map of where this place is? It's spelled EGTVED, and that's a city in Denmark.
EGTVED. EGT Egvid, I believe is how that'd be pronounced, and it's about right here.
Interesting. So I'm trying to look here real quick at this statement from the viewer real quick. I'm not going to share his name just for his privacy's sake, but he said here, airport if it comes back, and also he's going to try to take a video of it as well. So yeah, if you can take a video of that, and by the way, he knows who I'm talking to, by the way, but if you can take a video of that, we could show it here on the channel if you'd be okay with that, because we would like to see those up close. So far, we've only had a couple of different videos of these drones flying over Denmark, and they've been mainly from other folks taking them from the ground from airports. So if we could get a really clear video of that, now obviously do it safely. If we don't know if these drones are armed or anything like that, so be safe trying to do that. But if we could get a video, that would be tremendous.
That would also be a great help, and that would actually give us one of the first clips that we would be able to source directly of the drone incursions that are apparently happening once again around the central area of the main land of the Danish peninsula, which we can see right here. This is the area that we're hearing that there is a drone currently present right now, and we're going to be waiting to see if we can get any video or picture evidence of that, at least for now. But in the meantime, however, this situation is one that is quite large, and a lot of people are wondering, why in the world have the Danish authorities not shot down any of these drones yet? And the drone incursions that are happening right now, and the drone incursions that have been happening over the past several days, Danish authorities have stated that they will take a chance to shoot down one of these drones, but have not taken that chance, at least just yet. And Matthew, why are people thinking that they are not taking that sort of an action, and what are you thinking as well?
So it looks like 34% of the audience said the Danish that is, are frozen in fear of Russia, while 25% said there wasn't a safe opportunity to shoot the drones down, and 25% also said they questioned NATO support and Denmark scared to go out on a branch and basically shoot the drones down. So I would say, honestly, I'm not trying to bash Denmark, by the way. We have a lot of viewers from Denmark, and I respect all of our Danish viewers, but I think the Danish government is kind of frozen in fear right now because they're really not sure if they're going to be the front line of a Russian attack if they shoot these drones down. And right now, Russia's lobbing around a lot of threats about people shooting down Russian aircraft, and that could start World War III. So my hunch is that Denmark is scared to shoot them down because they're not sure what Russia is going to do in response, and they don't want to be the guinea pig to find out what happens if they do that. So I think I'm with the 33%. I think they're currently very fearful of what the Russian response could look like. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree with the 33% as well. I do believe that the Danish authorities may be in fear of actually conducting a response against these drones, but I would have to say that they need to conduct a response against these drones, and right now, tonight, and I would take this as the official explanation by the Danish government. We don't know whose drones these are. If they're Russian, that's just unfortunate. But they're over our skies. They don't have permission to be. And so we assumed it was just some sort of a civilian or some sort of a company that was flying their drones without permission, causing a great deal of hazard and safety to commercial flights and civilian aviation. And for that reason, we shot the drones down. That's the kind of answer that I would give. It pretty much is a blank statement. It doesn't allow the Russians to say they took direct actions against us, at least on an official level. And also, on an unofficial level, it sends them the message, we're going to start shooting these things down, and there's nothing that you're going to do about it. We're just going to do it and then pretend like they're not yours. And that also forces the Russians into a corner. Either their drones get shot down and they say nothing, or their drones get shot down and then they admit that they were their drones and that they were completely violating the airspace of Denmark and also threatening the national security and the armed forces of Denmark with great injury or harm, which is a fairly significant sort of an action to be caught in the midst of. So either the Russians can admit they're their drones once they're shot down, or they can just pretend like they're not, and we'll go from there. But I generally would have to say that at the moment, the Danish authorities should not be afraid. The United States, at least for now, hopefully permanently, is showing support for NATO and the positions against the Russian Federation that are currently being taken. And on top of that, we have to send a message to the Russians somehow, some way. I know that a lot of people are saying, well, if we do this, it could be the start of war. But let me give you all the alternative. The Russians are going to start this war whether you want it to or not. And I know that a lot of people would like to avoid a war, and I myself would like to see that a war would be avoided. But at this point, the Russians have made it clear they're not going to let us avoid one. If we ignore this escalation right now, they're going to conduct an even more grave escalation later. And they're going to keep pushing the envelope like we've been watching them do this entire year until they end up killing someone here in NATO. Who knows who it would be? They might kill a score of them. They might kill scores of people once they start, but they are going to force us into a war one way or another. So we either respond on our own terms or we let them respond for us. We either try and save as many people as we can at the outset by defending ourselves from these unsolicited provocations that the Russians are conducting, or we let them kill a couple of us at their own behest. Whenever they want to, whenever they wish, they get the call and they get to kill a couple of us. It's one or the other. So we're going to have to come up with something to do in response to this, and I would say that the answer should be that we face them down aggressively and we face them down hard here in the West. They will not fly a single drone or an aircraft through our skies without our permission, and our permission will never be given. Once a Russian MiG flies through Estonian airspace again, that MiG will be shot down. Any drones that fly through Denmark, they will be shot down. Any attempt of the Russians to respond to that, we will threaten, we here in the West will threaten with an inch the outbreak of a full-blown war if they do not respect the NATO alliance, the Western world, or the power of the United States of America in its own right, considering that we are American citizens running the channel. That should be the position taken from this point forward, and not an inch should be given to enemies of the United States of America or our foreign interests. Period. But nevertheless, we do have other significant news that has been coming out just recently around the area of the Kaliningrad Oblast, as the United States of America and multiple NATO allies are starting to conduct a massive encirclement of the Kaliningrad Oblast currently, with multiple aircraft, including those of Voyagers and a incredibly rare sighting of a Boeing RC-135V rivet joint, Jake-17, which is currently just to the west of the Kaliningrad Oblast. This aircraft has been conducting orbits right outside of Russian airspace and appears to be conducting some sort of an information gathering operation, while another PA Poseidon is also conducting orbits almost in the exact same airspace, once again just to the northwest of Kaliningrad. We also are seeing at the same time a British E-3 Voyager, an in-air fueling tanker, conducting orbits within Poland, once again showing that there is a British Eurofighter Typhoon presence inside of eastern Poland, at least at the moment. It is all clear that right now, NATO forces, and specifically the United States of America, are taking significant actions in terms of surveillance and intelligence gathering operations against the Russian forces inside of Kaliningrad, which is an incredibly large development, considering that we've seen not this many reconnaissance flights ever being conducted at the exact same time. To give you all another view of what's been going on in this area, we also saw that, once again, this Boeing RC-135V rivet joint, once again conducting its orbits near Kaliningrad, along with the PA Poseidon, had also some other form of a UAV, Tegaver, we are not sure what country that is affiliated with, also conducting surveillance flights in international waters throughout the entirety of the central Baltic, which is all a great deal of surveillance operations that are now being conducted against what we would assume to be Russian movements in international waters, as well as the Russian forces inside of the Kaliningrad Oblasts. And I also want to make this quite clear that the Russian forces in the Kaliningrad Oblast, specifically as a part of the Russian 11th Army Corps, are not that weak. The Kaliningrad Oblast has been designed, at least since the 2017 military reforms in the Russian Federation, to generally operate as a form of a castle or a fortress. The Kaliningrad forces are never supposed to go on the offensive, at least by their design and practice that was publicly stated by the Russian Federation when the reforms were conducted in 2017. Instead, they were supposed to operate entirely on a defensive level. Because Kaliningrad is in an incredibly difficult position, and it would be next to impossible, at least at the opening phase of any sort of a conflict with NATO, for the Russian Federation to conduct any resupplies or reinforcement efforts for the 11th Army Corps in Kaliningrad, the 11th Army Corps is designed to hold Kaliningrad for as long as possible until it can be relieved, and it has a large amount of forces at its disposal that would help it, at least in the conventional sense, conduct this sort of an action. For one, stopping any NATO forces from directly conducting a near-shore or littoral blockade of the port of Kaliningrad is the 25th Coastal Rocket Brigade. If NATO ever attempts an amphibious landing on the Kaliningrad Oblast, the 336 Guards Naval Infantry Brigade of the Naval Infantry is there to respond to any sort of an attempted naval invasion, which would also be quite difficult due to the challenging geography of the swamps and also small islands that exist on the very eastern side of Kaliningrad, leaving quite a small area for NATO forces to attempt to invade and capture. Inside of Kaliningrad, they have two entire anti-aircraft missile regiments armed with the S-400 and S-300 air defense systems. We believe that these are some of the few anti-aircraft missile regiments that have survived intact through the war, considering that neither one of these regiments, neither the 183rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment or the 1545th Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment, have ever been documented to leave the Kaliningrad Oblast and head into the Ukrainian front lines to sustain any sorts of casualties or losses. Not only that, but to support any operations against NATO command or logistical structures is the 152nd Guards Missile Brigade. While these would not be able to deal deadly blows in support of Russian counteroffensives, they would be able to deal deadly blows to NATO offensive operations and possibly disorient them or discombobulate them due to the sort of damage that would be caused by these missile impacts on key sites such as logistics and communications facilities, or maybe even command centers as well. For the Russians' ground defenses, they also have the 75th Motor Rifle Regiment, the 280th Motor Rifle Regiment, the 275th Motor Rifle Regiment, the 79th Guards Motor Rifle Regiment, and the 11th Separate Tank Regiment, along with several other motorized rifle regiments, including the 7th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Regiment directly within Kaliningrad, to also count on support or defense or the creation of a front line to be able to consolidate their efforts and to be able to try and hold a defensive line inside of Kaliningrad. On top of that, they also have the 22nd Guards Air Defense Regiment, which is a shorter range air defense system, the Tor M1 and M2s, to be able to try and defend against closer range attacks, either conducted by American rotary aviation wings or any other sorts of forces that would exist inside of Eastern Europe, along with the 244th Artillery Brigade, which would provide rocket artillery support for the larger part and anti-tank guided missile support to any forces such as the motor rifle regiments that are generally found around the city of Guevo, or I believe it's actually Gusev, within the eastern area of Kaliningrad. This is a fairly locked down sort of a region, and while we definitely could start to push the Russians back towards Kaliningrad, we still would have to tie up a decent amount of forces, at least within this area from what we know right now, to besiege the Russian forces at Kaliningrad and eventually defeat them, which, based off of the Battle of the Azovstal inside of Mariupol, that could possibly take, at the longest projections, 3 months for the siege to wrap up in a success for NATO forces, meaning that however many forces we would have to dedicate to that siege would be tied up in Kaliningrad until about 3 months later, and we don't know what the war would look like at that point. Nevertheless, a lot of people are talking about what the NATO aircraft, such as the E-8 and E-3s and the RC-135Vs, are currently doing around Kaliningrad right now. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so now that we're seeing NATO surveillance aircraft basically encircle Kaliningrad, which is the Russian enclave between Lithuania and Poland, it looks like NATO is very interested in that enclave very suddenly and with large numbers of aircraft. So 57% of the audience said NATO is trying to monitor Russian deployments that are taking place, while 33% said NATO is preparing a possible invasion of Kaliningrad, and 6% said it seems pretty routine to me. And I'll be honest with y'all, this is going to sound a little bit wild, but I think NATO is plotting a possible invasion of Kaliningrad. And the reason why I say that is not to make people think, oh, NATO's going to go on the offensive or something. NATO would do that only if they knew that Russia was about to do something to the NATO alliance, making that a defensive action if we did invade Kaliningrad. So you have to go in and do the surveillance. You have to map out the deployments that Russia's made in Kaliningrad before you can actually come up with a proper war plan for NATO to go in and take that territory. So I believe I'm with a 33%. I think NATO is preparing for that possibility, and I would still say it's very unlikely that NATO will invade Kaliningrad, but they at least want to get the plans put together so that way they're not caught off guard in case it needs to take place in the very near future. So I know that's the minority of people saying that, but I'm actually within that minority. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would believe that we are most likely trying to gather some sort of intelligence to monitor Russian deployments within the Oblast and to see if the Russian Federation is attempting to start an armed offensive against NATO at any point in the near future. While Kaliningrad is designed to be a fortress, it is incredibly important to understand the force disposition and the force readiness of these units under the 11th Army Corps that are in Kaliningrad to be able to understand if they are actually getting ready or prepared for any war against NATO. These forces would have to hold out for a while, so if these aircraft are able to gather any sort of intelligence or information to suggest that perhaps there is a larger buildup of munitions and munition stock stockpiles in Kaliningrad, it would make it quite clear at that moment that they are preparing to go to war. We generally will expect that there won't be a large force buildup inside of Kaliningrad, such as the introduction of new motor rifle regiments or any other supporting regiments or brigades, even if they are getting ready for war. But one thing that clearly would show a preparation for war in Kaliningrad would be the stockpiling of munitions to try and give those forces the longest leeway of time to try and hold Kaliningrad before they run out of ammunition. Also, something else that just hit me, folks, this is something that might be a little bit important to remember, is that there was about 1,500 tons of Russian ammunition that was entering Belarus while the Russian regiments that were involved in the Zapad were leaving Belarus. And it just hit me, folks. That probably is all going to Kaliningrad, because from what we saw from the cameras at the Belarusian train stations, which its cameras were hacked for us to be able to see what kind of Russian munitions were heading out, it was mostly S-300 and S-400 missile cells that would be used on an S-300 or an S-400 air defense system. Considering that Lithuania has not rescinded the treaty for Russian trains to travel from Belarus to Kaliningrad for quote-unquote humanitarian or civil economic purposes, that train could possibly be disguised as a civilian or an economic sort of a train, and all of those S-300 and S-400 missiles, about 1,500 tons worth, could be brought directly into Kaliningrad to support those air defense units and to try and give a greater amount of time in terms of air cover to the 183rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment and the 1,545th to be able to try and hold Kaliningrad for longer and also stave away NATO air forces from completely bombarding and obliterating the ground forces in Kaliningrad before NATO even engaged them. That could be a possibility, and I would have to be entirely honest with y'all, that's making me wonder, and I wish we could get a little bit more in depth with that right now, what trains have crossed from Belarus through Lithuania to Kaliningrad, and do any of them match the description of the Russian train that passed into Belarus from Russia that was visibly seen to be carrying air defense missiles into the country, which had absolutely no purpose or reason for being transported in that scale and number into Belarus, considering that all Russian forces that were inside of that country had left the country by the time that train appeared. So I'll be entirely honest with you.
It can't be too far-fetched. It can't be too far-fetched, because we do know that Lukashenko confirmed today that he was getting a large shipment of Oreshnik IRBM missiles, which Russia has used on Ukraine before without a warhead. And we've gotten confirmation today from Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, that he is receiving more of those. And also, like you mentioned, we did see that ammunition going into Belarus. So Belarus is tied up very deeply in the Russian web. They're obviously a puppet state, and Putin controls the whole place. And Lukashenko is simply the puppet face of the whole operation. So I would say, honestly, it's not too far-fetched to say that, and it could be a real possibility that Belarus is sending that stuff over to Kaliningrad. So I would say it's possible.
I would have to say that that is actually incredibly possible, and that's actually quite concerning to think about. And of course, that's all speculation. We don't have hardcore proof to show that that train did pass through Lithuania into Kaliningrad, but that seems like a reasonable deduction from the information that we have and what we might be able to fill in at this point. So that might have been an air defense missile move, supply-wise, into Kaliningrad for those air defense regiments. But nevertheless, we are going to be moving on out of that news. We still have a lot more to go, including the news that came out of Latvia today, as we did confirm that MiG-31s skimmed, almost in a sense, the airspace of Latvia, and we were able to hear that Hungarian fighters, the JAS-39 Gripens, were scrambled to respond, and these were actually the pictures that those Gripens took of the MiG-31s that were in flight, and unfortunately we do not know the direction in which they were flying, whether they were flying towards Kaliningrad or away from Kaliningrad and back towards the Russian Federation at St. Petersburg. We're not entirely sure, but we did get an additional picture here showing the MiGs from another angle from one of those Hungarian JAS-39 Gripens. So we can actually see those right there as well. These do not appear, at least from what we can see here briefly, to be carrying a combat loadout. But let's check these MiG-31s again to see if they are carrying any sort of ordnance. And it doesn't appear that, from what I can tell, well, actually, this one MiG-31 is actually carrying a singular R-73. Which doesn't really count for much at all, really. So these things appear to be lightly armed, very lightly armed at that, but it does appear to be another ferrying flight of these MiG-31s or another attempt to provoke Baltic states in this area, and also the air defense forces that are within the area. I also see some people asking, wait a minute, Hungary has Gripens? Yes, they actually do. Let me go pull up the Hungarian Air Force for y'all and show y'all those really quickly, because those are a part of the air defense force that currently are in the area right now. And let me see if I can show y'all the aircraft that they have in their possession. So here we are. So they have 12 JAS-39 Gripens from Sweden. They also have 2 Airbus A319s as transport aircraft. We call those Gucci transports because that doesn't really fit the military description of a transport aircraft, but it does the job. They also have 2 Dassault Falcon 7Xs, which is an executive jet, so quite an interesting transport as well. And they also have a Embraer C390, which really is the only true military version of a transport jet that the Hungarian Air Force has. Still quite interesting. They also have several helicopters under their control as well, including 8 Mi-24s, 5 Mi-8s, all Soviet era. They also have 19 Airbus H-145Ms. Those are called the Lakota in U.S. Army service. We're actually using those at the moment. And they also have some Airbus H-225Ms, which have also been called the Puma or the Super Puma inside of French service. And then they have several training aircraft as well, including 2 versions of the JS-39 Gripen trainers, which have been leased from the Swedes on a little bit of a longer-term contract. That's actually what Hungarian Gripens look like, just in case you're all wondering, and that is the Hungarian Air Force flash on the back of the vertical stabilizer. So just to let you all know, the Hungarians do actually have Gripens, and a decent Air Force. It's not the biggest one we've seen in Europe. It is a somewhat smaller one, at least in terms of combat capabilities, only 12 Gripens, but still not bad. Anyways, moving on from that, a lot of people have been wondering, or generally speaking for this matter, about the situation, at least ongoing, with the developments inside of Belarus. Now, I was trying to quickly see what that poll was because it popped up and disappeared, like, practically immediately. And I was like, what in the world's going on
Well,
with that?
you see, what happened with the poll was this. It started off with I worded the poll wrong and said that Poland warns citizens to leave Poland immediately. So that got messed up. And then I put it up the correct way, and then YouTube's poll broke. Their whole system wasn't working at that point. So the third attempt is coming, folks. So this time, hopefully, it'll work.
And hopefully it will. We also were able to hear a statement today, at least from Polish authorities, that they are once again stating that Polish citizens need to depart Belarus immediately by all means necessary, citing the risk of unforeseen circumstances. We did get an order from Poland a while ago stating that Polish citizens should leave Belarus as quickly as they can. We are now hearing that they must depart Belarus immediately without further delay due to these unforeseen circumstances. At the same time, Lukashenko stated, the Oreshnik is on its way. I gotta be honest with y'all, I absolutely loathe this guy. I cannot stand him. But beyond that, he did say that the Oreshnik is on their way to Belarus, which is a hypersonic missile that the Russian Federation uses. It's a modification of the RS-26 Rubesh, and it is a hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile. So a little bit of an interesting sort of a system with that. And also something that I find a little bit odd about calling it a hypersonic intermediate range ballistic missile is that all ICBMs and intermediate range ballistic missiles pretty much operate in a hypersonic form already, so I don't know what they did. I guess they gave it a little bit of extra juice, but I have no clue what they would have done beyond that to make it a hypersonic IRBM. It's just weird. But beyond that, a lot of people are talking about that current development, about the Oreshniks being sent into Belarus, and at the same time, the Polish are now saying that the citizenry of Poland inside of Belarus must leave the country by all means necessary immediately. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So it sounds like a pretty ominous warning here by Poland telling their citizens to leave Belarus by any means necessary. That's obviously pretty direct. So what is happening with that? And it looks like 54% said Russia is about to attack NATO, while 27% said Belarus plans to harass the Poles inside of Belarus, and 13% said it seems like a diplomatic backlash. And I would say it sounds to me pretty ominous. Why would Poland tell their citizens to get out of Belarus by any means they possibly can, unless something was happening very, very serious? But the problem is, though, I really have no clue what this could be. I would like to say that it sounds like Russia's about to attack NATO, but I don't know. Like that's a far reach to make based on that one piece of information right there. So I'm actually with the 6%. I'm actually undecided. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would generally have to say that it's a little bit of a hard one to say. That what's going to be happening here in the future. I would also have to be undecided. These sorts of warnings can mean that just about anything's going to happen, but also to say this at the same time, most of the time whenever any country has ever made a statement like that for their citizens to leave a country immediately, usually that means that that country is about to get bombed. So that's going off of the Middle East examples that we've seen in the past. So going off of that, it's likely this could be some sort of a preparation for Russia to attack NATO and our counter response, but I'd also have to say that I'm fairly unsure because it could be for any reason. Also, just including the continuing deteriorating diplomatic situation that exists between the Republic of Poland and also the dictatorship of Belarus. So that may also be the case as well. But before we move on from this, folks, and on into the rest of our news for the night, which we still have quite a large amount of, actually, I do want to say that it's been a crazy night again tonight. We currently have about 25,000 viewers live, and over the course of about an hour and 5 minutes, 108,000 people have watched this stream. I've got to say that that's really crazy to see these sorts of numbers, and it's even crazier to see that this Enforcer channel has come such a long way in the years that since it started, about 4 years ago. It's been running continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, really 6 days a week, at least for live streams, but 7 days a week, at least behind the scenes on what we're doing. And as of today, we not only have 25,000 people here who are live and 108,000 people have viewed this stream in about an hour, we also have hit 500,000 subscribers, 500,000 as of today, which is an absolutely amazing and phenomenal sort of a thing. Years ago, when this channel started, it was just me, and I uploaded a video on the American withdrawal of Afghanistan and got about 400 views, not 400,000, that's way up in the modern day of what we're getting, but it got about 400 views, and I had about 11 subscribers at the end of the first day of running this channel. 4 years later, Enforcer Matt is now a part of the channel and has been for 3.5 years. And this channel has grown to now be at 502,000 subscribers, and it now easily sits in the top 30 in the nation on YouTube every single day for its live streams, which is an absolutely crazy thing to think that we are now competing with the White House itself for the viewership that it gets on YouTube whenever it goes live. So we have about the same voice as the entire executive branch of the government on YouTube here on this platform, and I have to say that we, both Enforcer Matt and me, have been entirely honored and grateful for all of y'all being here with us from pretty much the first days of us covering this news 3.5 years ago, and all the way up until today. It's really been a crazy and amazing sort of a thing to see, and we have to thank you all so greatly for being here with us and subscribing today, to the thousands who did, that got us over 500,000 subscribers. Hopefully, y'all will be able to join us as we make our way on up to 1 million subscribers, which at this point, with how fast we're getting subscribers these days, might not be that far away, and might not really be a feigning reality of a sort. It may actually be what is going to happen here within the next few years, or maybe even the next year or a year and a half from here. But I still have to say huge thanks to all of y'all once again, and as a brief little moment to take to talk about this, or generally just to speak to all of y'all for a brief moment before we get into the rest of our news, we are going to take a couple of questions. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
And also, by the way, I want to say a huge shout out to everybody as well for making this all possible. We've been working on this channel for years and years and years, and many of y'all have been here since that very beginning time when we both started working on this channel. So a tremendous amount of work's gone into it, and most of y'all have gotten to see it over the times, and hopefully we've improved, hopefully a lot over those many years we've been doing this. So a huge shout out to everybody that's been here since the very beginning, because we do know pretty much every single person that's been here in the chat since the very beginning, and also we gained a lot of new Ellison members along the way. So a huge shout out to you all for making that possible. We're currently sitting at about 502,000 subscribers, and we're about to cross over 503,000, and that's almost about a 4,000 subscriber gain or close to it in just a single day, which is insane. We've gained that just today. Yeah, unbelievable, honestly. That video today was a real hit when it comes to gaining new subs. So we're glad to have everybody here on the channel, and a huge shout out to y'all once again for making that possible. But jumping into our first super chat here, this one goes to Hal Rose, and Hal puts in a massive $333 support, and thank you very much, Hal, for that massive support indeed, and we do appreciate that. He said, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, congratulations on blowing right past 500,000 subscribers, and what does a chart of your growth rate look like? LSA, Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so so much for the massive support and congratulations for 500,000 subscribers, Hal Rose. And I gotta thank you for being here with us tonight. You've been here with us for years. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who are here with us tonight have been here with us for years. And it's really crazy to see that so many people are still around and still enjoying this channel to this day. We actually heard that we got a shout out from another YouTuber today who stated, quote unquote, we are locked in. And that's great to hear. We love to hear that people really do enjoy our news and find it to be of high quality and well researched, especially on the topics of foreign policy and world news. And as far as our subscriber growth has been going these days, it is, suffice it to say, crazy. This is what it looked like over the past 28 days. You can actually see the explosion that happened today. Enforcer Matt made an insanely good video, and it's been exploding. I think it's over 400,000 views at this point, and it's really the reason why we've gotten this many subscribers today. And if you look at the lifetime of the channel, this is actually what it looks like from the beginning, about approximately 4 years ago, on the 5th of September of 2021. Which, on that day, it got up to 9 subscribers. And most of those people were people I knew, including Matthew. So it wasn't really like organic growth. It was more so just people who I knew that subscribed to the channel. Now it's gotten all the way up to 502,990 subscribers. We're about to hit 503,000 here on air, which actually is happening right now on air. Y'all actually
it's
saw
happening
that.
right now.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Look at that.
Yeah, it actually happened on air. So now y'all get to see us hit 503. But this is what it's looked like over the years. And it's really crazy because way back about, let's see here, this was the 23rd of February, right there. That's when the war in Ukraine started. And Matthew joined about a month later, just about, somewhere around there. So he joined when the channel was at about something around 30 to 40,000 subs, somewhere within that range. And together, we've grown the channel from about 30 to 40,000 subscribers to more than 10 times the size over the next 3.5 years to 503,000 subscribers as of right now. And it started to grow double over every single year. It went from, at the end of 2023, it was 110. To the end of 2024, it was 156. At the end of 2024, it was 328. And now it's already at 503. So it's a really crazy sort of a thing to see that we are blowing up like this day over day, week over week, month over month. And a lot of people continue to find this channel to be one of the primary sources of news that they now use from a day-to-day basis here around the world, really, for the large part. And I got to say that it's really crazy. And it's really even crazier to know that folks like you, Hal Rose, have been with us for such a long time. We have always said here on the channel that we know that while we see numbers in our dashboard, which right now it's showing 22,819 people are here and 114,000 people have watched this stream so far, we know that behind every single one of those numbers is a person. And I have sometimes the great and distinct fortune of getting to meet y'all in person. And we also get the great and distinct fortune of running into y'all all over the place, whether it be on the internet, which usually a lot of y'all run into Enforcer Matt on Twitter. He's the one who pretty much runs the Twitter entirely. I repost on there, but Matthew's the one who actually runs that thing entirely. Some of y'all run into me in person. Some others run into me on video games. And a lot of y'all run into us every single night here in the live chat. And I got to say that it's a wonderful thing to know that y'all have been here with us for years and continue to be with us as we cover this news day over day, week over week, year over year. And we hope that y'all are here with us for many more years because we expect and hope to continue to cover this news the same way we have for all these years, many more into the future, at the same kind of quality and consistency that people have come to know and respect the channel for. So a humongous and incredible thanks to you so much once again, Hal Rose. I hope that does address your super chat incredibly well. And thank you so much once again for the massive support, because it is folks like you who have helped this channel to keep on running for those years and hopefully will help us to keep this thing running for many more. So massive thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I got to give a shout out to all of our longtime LSA members, because everybody will know if you've been here from the beginning, this channel has raised somewhere in the ballpark of over $1.7 million for charity over the course of this channel, which is a tremendous amount of money going to help those in Ukraine and those around the world when we fundraise for different topics. I think we fundraised for the California wildfires at one point. We've definitely done a ton of fundraising for Ukrainian-based charities. And also, we've done some fundraising for, I believe, a charity involving refugees in the Middle East as well. well. So between all those different ones and the 1.7 million in total, a huge shout out to the LSA for also making that possible, because that is a huge point of pride that we have here on the channel as well. And it's been thanks to y'all that y'all have donated and made that possible. So a huge shout out to all y'all for that as well. But jumping into our next super chat here, this one is going to go to East Malibu, who's also a channel legend and puts in a $100 support. And thank you very much, good sir, as well for that support. They said, thank you, Enforcer Brothers, for sifting through what must be mountains of information on a daily basis to bring us the most complete video evidence of what's happening in this crazy world. And historians will reference you, no doubt. And please take a question, and congrats on 500,000.
And I thank you so much for the kind words and the humongous support. And I gotta say that we have done a lot to get this channel to where it is. It's a really crazy thing to see, folks, how far this channel has gone over the years, because Enforcer Matt and me end up being recognized in a lot of places these days. Like, it's always in the weirdest of places. Like, recently, I was actually playing a video game, and I talked in the local chat in voice, and everybody knew who I was. It was really weird. I was like, that is crazy, because, you know, we don't really deal with a lot of folks on a daily basis. We're busy doing this. So we just deal with each other. And then Enforcer Matt, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Matthew, you were actually recognized on one of your special expeditions out there to Salt Lake, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, so we get
we
get recognized all over the place. It is the weirdest thing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna ever really get used to that, at least for now, because it's just the weirdest thing. Because, you know, we just do our job, we do what we do, and then people know us out there in the world, and they always have the nicest things to say, and it means a lot to us. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also on top of that, we even got a mention from another channel today, and they were mentioning us in their actual news coverage and a Twitter post that Matthew had made on the Twitter. And he was saying that these guys work on YouTube, they cover the news, and you know, they particularly in Eastern Europe. And then he just stopped, and we were laughing at this so hard because it was a really great compliment. Like, he stopped his whole monologue, which we know takes a good bit of effort to think about that, but he just went out of his way to say, this guy is locked in. And we were like, man, that is a really high praise. We got to thank him greatly for that. We got to thank everyone for enjoying the channel. And it's just really the craziest thing to think how far this has come and how far it keeps going. So a massive thanks to you so much once again. I thank you for the kind words and the support, and thanks to folks like you, we keep this channel running. And so with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, at least for now, and then we're going to be getting on into the rest of the news for the night.
All right, so the last one of this segment goes to Bobby43, also known as LC39A, and thank you very much, good sir, for being a channel legend and also throwing in that $100 support, and very generous of you once again. He said, congrats on that 500,000 subscribership.
Hey, and thank you so much for the congrats. We love to see it. It's taken a long time coming, but together we have been able to get this channel on up to 500,000 subscribers. I never believed it would happen, folks. I really didn't. I don't think either of us did, Matthew. Did you?
Honestly, man, I thought I was going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of like 350,000, but 500,000 plus, and now we're starting to barrel past 500,000 too. So I wasn't expecting it to get this high, especially this quick too. It's exploded over the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, really, folks. Like, we used to, I used to tell Matthew years ago, like, me personally, I was like, we will have made it if we hit 250,000 subscribers. If we hit 250,000 subscribers, we have made it on YouTube. And then we hit that pretty easy, like, once it came around to that. And then I was like, oh, well, okay. Well, I guess, you know, if we hit like 300, that'd be really crazy. And then we hit 300, and I think we got up to 350. And we were like, man, we can't get bigger than this. Like, you know, this is about as big as we're going to get because there isn't a huge audience for this sort of a deal on YouTube. At least that's what we were thinking. Now we're at 500,000, and we're like, okay, it's like, you know, apparently the sky's the limit at this point. I guess we're going to 1 million. But still, I got to thank you so much for the support and the kind words because, well, I never believed that the channel would get this big, and I got to say that we are just unbelievably honored to know that so many people enjoy this channel and watch it in the millions, the tens of millions sometimes, every single month, which is a truly amazing thing. So a huge thanks to all of y'all so much once again on behalf of the entire Enforcer team, which is me and Enforcer Matt, and that's it. There's no one else on the team. Like, so it's really just us. It's just the two of us that are on air. But a big thanks to all of y'all on both of our behalfs because we are greatly appreciative of all of y'all and y'all's enjoyment of the show. But a huge thanks to you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, folks, it is time for us to get back to business. and to get back into the rest of this news coverage for the night. If you have thrown in a super chat, do not fret, folks. We do address every single super chat, no matter how long it takes, before the end of the show. So we will be getting to all of the super chats we have not addressed before the show is over. For new viewers, considering that we have a lot tonight, just to explain really quickly, we do not run ads or sponsors on these streams, so they're completely non-monetized. The only way that we keep this channel running and keep our lights on over here in Enforcer HQ is directly by viewer support, and that's why we put such a large emphasis on thanking and recognizing every single person, even if they just throw in $1, because each and every bit of that is responsible for helping this channel to keep on running pretty much solely. So I hope that addresses that well, and if you do enjoy the channel, you can support. You don't have to. We've structured this to where it isn't supposed to be a pay-to-play system, and you can sit back and enjoy the show without supporting it, but if you do enjoy it, you can. That's through the super chats. But moving on from that, it is time for us to get on into the rest of the news for the night, as we were able to hear out in Alaska that an E-3 Sentry was scrambled from Elmendorf Air Force Base earlier, and was apparently conducting a flight just off to the southeast, or the southwest specifically, sorry, of Alaska, in particularly near to Nome. We are hearing that apparently all of this air activity around Alaska was because of a Russian bomber incursion that was conducted into the Air Defense Identification Zone. And this Russian Ministry of Defense clip actually came from that very air defense incursion that occurred over the course of last night and has led to a significant response up until this morning and right now. When you see the Tu-95 taxiing and taking off, and now they fly this piece of junk that looks like it's from the Second World War on out towards Alaska. You can also see right here one Su-27, and they're also being escorted by, what are those, Matthew? What are those?
Flunkers right there is what they are.
Those are F-16s of the U.S. Air Force. That's what they are, and they intercepted them successfully.
Are you sure it's an F-16?
Yes, those are F-16s. The Russians have no aircraft in their arsenal that I can think of.
Oh, okay. I thought you that one over there to the left over there is not F-16. I was looking at that first one.
Yeah, this first one's an Su-27. These off to the far right, those are F-16s of the United States Air Force out of Elmendorf Air Base, and they intercepted them right out there near to Nome, Alaska last night. Very nice to see, and good to know that the U.S. Air Force is out there and working hard. Well, you see them showing the Su-27 escorts, and also some footage from the Su-27s. And also an in-air refueling of by an IL-76. And also them returning and landing. I gotta tell y'all, this is another armed provocation by the Russians. They did enter the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone and did require a response by the U.S. Air Force. They are continuously trying to provoke us in the area of Alaska and are continuing to test our response times to see what type of force readiness we are able to muster at our best. Moving on out of Alaska and on down towards the area of eastern Virginia, we were also able to hear of a major event that is apparently being coordinated by the Secretary of War, as we were able to hear that a senior Pentagon correspondent says in 30 years of covering the U.S. military, he's never heard or seen of anything like this. And what he has not heard or seen of is this. The Defense Secretary has ordered hundreds of U.S. military generals and admirals to gather on short notice at a Marine Corps base in Virginia next week. This highly unusual directive was sent to virtually all of the military's top commanders worldwide, according to more than a dozen people familiar with the matter. This is a very interesting sort of a development, and we do not know what it's exactly supposed to be leading up to. This is something that nobody has really ever seen, and as much as I could find, I couldn't really find a moment where this has ever happened before. As a matter of fact, at least for the past 80 to 100 years, at least from my studies and search today that I tried to make on that situation. This is leading a lot of people to wonder, what in the world is this exactly being done for, and why? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So the enforcer is right. This has actually never happened before that we have ever heard of. So all the Pentagon reporters are somewhat shocked by this. I'm shocked by it. I've never heard of it myself. But we have heard that the U.S. Department of Defense, Department of War, whatever you want to call it, has ordered all top U.S. military leadership worldwide, that is, all U.S. military leadership worldwide to a rare meeting in Virginia this week. And what are your thoughts? 66% said it's preparations for war with Russia, etc., while 18% said it's probably politically related, and 8% said it seems like a restructuring and they want them there in person to figure out who's going to stay and who's going to go. So, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sure like entirely what the restructuring would look like, but I do believe personally I'm with the 66%. It is preparations for war with Russia, or maybe even larger than that. That's my guess. I doubt they would recall all the top military leadership for the first time that we've ever heard about simply to restructure them. It seems like they wanted to fire somebody. They could simply do that remotely and simply relieve them and put them off the post. So I'm not sure why they need to gather them together for that, unless they just want to make a big statement or a point out of it. But I would say the odds of that are kind of low in my opinion. I think it is probably a preparations for war, and they're trying to get all the top military leadership in one physical location, so that way they don't broadcast their war plans over wires or over networks that can be intercepted by China and then given to the Russian Federation. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm with the 66%. I would believe that it's some sort of a preparation for war, although it's really weird to just gather them up for any reason, no matter what answer it is. This is a pretty significant sort of a security concern, just to be entirely honest with y'all. Having all of these commanders in the same place at the same time very rarely, if ever, has happened. We've never seen it happen, as a matter of fact, at least for people who've been covering this for about 30 years. And really, I haven't found any records of this ever happening before at any other period. I don't really know why this would be conducted, because, once again, to put this out there to all of y'all, the United Nations is a huge security concern because so many world leaders are in a singular building or around a singular building. If someone sets something off in that area, they could end up wounding and killing a lot of world leaders at a single time. That's why the security of the United Nations is so high. That's also why you don't want to do something like this at short notice in a place like Eastern Virginia. Who's to say that something like that doesn't happen as an unexpected result of that sort of a situation? It's putting American security interest or national security interest at risk, because a lot of our top leadership could possibly be debilitated in an attack, and then we have to immediately promote commanders across the entirety of the world to take response or the reins of the commands that those people were holding. So a little bit interesting with that. I don't know if this is a good idea, to be entirely honest with y'all, just for the security side of things. But maybe they have a reason for it. Maybe it's important for them to all be in that area. We'll just have to wait and see when that meeting happens next week, what exactly is going to be coming out of it, because I have no clue. But moving on into Washington, we also heard of a couple of other significant developments. The United States has approved the sale of $1.2 billion of missiles to the Federal Republic of Germany, and the President of the United States stated today that Russia is losing ground. And I'll actually just let y'all hear it from him, because this is directly from the White House, which is copyright free. So here's the clip.
Is going to hell. They're bombing the hell out of everything, and they're picking up a very little territory, if any. In fact, they're losing some territory. So I think it's been very bad for the reputation of Russia. This war should have been over. If this were our war, we would have had it over in 1 week.
So,
well, thankfully the U.S. isn't invading Ukraine. That's a good thing. But isn't that a switch of narrative right there? I mean, before, the U.S. president was saying something to the effect of, you don't pick fights with big countries if you don't want to get defeated. And that's what he said to Ukraine, something to that effect. Not the exact wording there, but he said something like that on Ukraine's behalf. Now he's saying that Ukraine can regain their land and that Russia is failing, and they're failing in their economy and the military. So that's kind of crazy. That's a good change in narrative, though. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, also, have you noticed, Matthew, that crazily enough, it's been, I think, 48 hours, and it hasn't done a 180. This is actually shocking.
Yeah. Give it 2 weeks.
2 more weeks. But at least for 48 hours, it hasn't changed. So this looks like it might actually be dead set that this is what we're going with now as a foreign policy stance, which, I'll be honest with y'all, this is a lot better than what we've seen before. I mean, before there was literally a switch of the position every day, nearly. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was almost every day, and it was driving us crazy to the point that we couldn't really assess or analyze anything that was going on in foreign policy anymore because we couldn't tell. And now it seems that it's largely dead set that we are supporting the state of Ukraine and taking a pro-Ukrainian position. So that is quite interesting to see. Quite good to see, as a matter of fact. So hopefully that will keep up, and hopefully we will be able to see that the United States of America and the whole of the NATO alliance continues to support and promote the security and interest of the NATO alliance in Europe and also the state of Ukraine as well. We also were able to hear, this is something that we already knew about, but the United States conducted a 7,500-mile thermonuclear weapon test. That was actually conducted by a ballistic missile submarine down in the area of the, let's see, oh man, down near the Bahamas. We'll just call it that because I was trying to think of what in the world to call this area. It's technically the Bermuda Triangle, but I didn't want to make it sound like it was conspiracy theory related because that's a real conspiracy theory sort of a thing. But down in the area of the Bermuda Triangle, since everyone will know what that is, a ballistic missile submarine fired a Trident II that was visible all the way from Puerto Rico 1,000 miles away. And that missile splashed down within the South Atlantic near to the Gulf of Guinea, ending in success and showing that the U.S. Trident IIs are still operational and capable of conducting an attack. And an attack on who? That's really the question, folks. Why in the world would we be preparing that and making sure that our nuclear forces are ready in that sort of an instance from our ballistic missile submarines? I wonder.
I wonder. That's a good question.
I have no clue who that could be against, but beyond that, I also have to say a big shout out to Dennis Davidoff, who's here with us tonight. I just saw him in the chat there.
Hey, we got the YouTube crew in here tonight. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. It's a big thanks to you, Dennis Davidoff, for the support, and also thank you for the congrats on 500K. It's really crazy to see that we've made it that far. It's a crazy thing. I got to thank you for being here tonight. Dennis Davidoff is a friend of the Enforcer channel, if y'all didn't know, and so I got to say a great thing to see you here tonight, and big thanks to you for the support and giving a big congrats and a hello. And so with that, before you know it, folks, we're going to have the entire YouTube crew in here. Honestly, folks, I'm wondering if we're going to get visits from other YouTubers throughout the course of the night in the live chat. That'll be actually kind of crazy to see. But we, of course, would welcome it, and we would, of course, be happy to have them here and hear their thanks and congratulations, because we respect a good amount of their work. But moving on from that...
Unless it's Hot Dog Man, though. I don't want any thanks from a Hot Dog Man. I'm good. I'll pass.
Honestly, I think we would pass on that. Less hot dogs, and less relish. But anyways, moving on from that and on down to Venezuela, we also got to hear of something quite convenient today: an earthquake. It was a 6.5, actually. It was a little bit of a sizable one, and it actually happened near to Lake Arecibo, which was quite interesting. We also got to see that it did damage sidewalks in the area. It did disrupt the soil enough that actually not a sidewalk, that's a street. An entire street and a sidewalk, you can see a little sliver of it over there, cracked from the seismic activity within this area. So it actually was somewhat powerful.
That was a really powerful one right there. Honestly, it's kind of weird that all of our adversaries have such bad earthquakes. I know people say, oh, they're sitting on fault lines. Yeah, I mean, they are sitting on fault lines. That's true. But the timing, you got to admit, like, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy all the time, but you got to admit, though, the timing's a little bit weird that you have these mega quakes breaking out, multiple of them in Venezuela, multiple of them in Kamchatka, Russia. And it just happens to coincide with major escalations by these powers against the United States. Seems a little bit odd. I would say it looks like Mother Nature is on NATO's side, it looks like, so I'm glad for that.
I gotta say, it is good to see. And it's just so weird, folks. It's so weird how these natural disasters and calamities keep hitting our enemies and adversaries of the United States and of the Republic. It's a very interesting and bizarre sort of an occurrence, but I just have to say, folks, I think we just chalk it up here to Providence is on America's side. Wouldn't y'all agree? It's just that things line up like that. We just have a little bit of luck with that sort of thing, just earthquakes hitting Russia, the Kamchatka Peninsula, and in Venezuela near Lake Arecibo where the oil drilling's being conducted by the Chinese. It's just a little bit crazy with that. I see some people talking about harps. And harps are actually a really interesting sort of an instrument. They're actually from the Irish Isles, if y'all do not know that. Take a look at these. Take a look at these. Aren't they cool? Look at that. That is such a cool little thing right there. I think that these are really cool, but some people are saying harp in the chat. I don't know what that would have to do with an earthquake. I don't know. I have no clue.
Rumor has it, when you go up and you strum the low frequencies of this harp right here, that sometimes it aggravates fault lines a little bit. That's why you got to be careful where you play your harp, because even though you may be a licensed harp operator, you need to make sure that you're always very mindful about where you point that thing. Because I'll tell you, those harps are dangerous.
I gotta be honest with y'all, harps are fairly dangerous. They say that their melodic tunes can cause a great deal of issues, but I just be honest with y'all. I have absolutely no clue what y'all are talking about with this harp that has another A in it, and why in the world that would have to do with any major seismic events or geological disturbances inside of countries that are enemies of the Republic. I have absolutely no idea why y'all would say that, or even think that for that matter. It's a very weird thing. I really just think, folks, that it's just that America gets kind of lucky that our adversaries are hit with these sorts of earthquakes, and they have to deal with them in the middle of the devolving geopolitical situation. I just really think that that's the truth, and we're just going to leave it at that. So moving on out of the area and on up to the UK, we also did get to see some U-2 Dragon ladies coming in to land at the area Fairford Air Force Base, which is up near to the area of the Welsh-English border. Those U-2s have landed at this point and will be assisting in reconnaissance operations against the Russian Federation in the NATO alliance. Moving on down into France, we also were able to hear that the French have given a little statement of their own today, as France has stated that they are ready to contribute to the security of Danish airspace after yesterday's drone incursion, meaning the Rafale is coming to Denmark. And, of course, with it comes a great deal of French bravado, which is well-deserved. The Rafales are really cool, and the French Air Force is actually very competent. We also were able to hear that the French have dealt with their own drone incursion near to the area of Mourmelon-le-Grand. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, but an unidentified drone was spotted over the weekend near to the military installations in that area. And to try and find all these military installations really quickly, here they are. This is actually, holy moly, this is the 501st Regiment of the French Army. That's actually a little interesting, because the 501st Regiment, if y'all do not know, is actually renowned across the whole of the French Republic. It's actually one of their best fighting units, at least in the French army. So it's a little bit interesting here that they dealt with a drone incursion around this area, which also includes a training ground for the 501st Regiment. So a little bit interesting with that. And I wonder what was up with that. It's the Russians, most likely, I'd have to say. I think that there's really no doubt in my mind about that anymore. But moving on from that and out of France, we are going to be moving on our way over into Russia. And to cover all of the news that we got from the state of Ukraine and the front lines in that area today, we were able to hear that the Russians are running out of gas, or as they call it, benzene. We were able to see that around the area, about 360 gas stations in Russia have closed due to the fuel shortage. The situation is felt most strongly in the south of Russia, where the number of gas stations has decreased by 14%, and in temporarily occupied Crimea and Sevastopol by 50%. 1 in every 2 gas stations in Crimea has shuttered up due to a complete lack of gas. Supply disruptions affected Moscow, Leningrad, Ryazan, Nizhny Novgorod, and other regions. And as of today, the fuel shortage in Moscow is getting worse. A larger amount of the Moscow region is starting to be affected by the loss of 95-octane gasoline, and we're also seeing that 92 is soon to run out, at least from what we're hearing right now. So it doesn't really seem that they are gassed up anymore. You know, I always heard that the Russians were gassed up for war. I don't really think that's true anymore, at least literally. I mean, they don't even have enough gas to put in their cars anymore. You know, if you think about that, how in the world can they be gassed up for war when they don't even have any gas in their cars to work off of? I mean, it's just a paradoxical sort of a situation. It makes no sense. I mean, maybe the only gas they've got is their crappy propaganda. But beyond that, there really isn't much more going on for them in Russia, you know? It's the unfortunate sort of a thing. And I'd also have to say that they need to get off that benzene stuff. I don't know what the hell benzene is. It sounds medicinal to me. And I think that they ought to start getting onto that good gasoline or something along those lines, like petrol, which is what they call it in Britain. But actually, funnily enough, folks, most of the world actually calls gas benzene. But if you're French, you call it something else, Matthew. What do you think the French call gasoline?
The gas.
Essence.
They call it what now? Say
They
it again?
call it essence.
Essence?
Yeah.
Like essence of gas?
Yeah, like a vapor, you know, essence. Like, it's like, what the hell is essence? I'm like, honestly,
They sell essence in Mourmelon-le-Grand.
Man, bro. Man, you go to France and you go to the gas station, you sound like you're dealing with some high-end shit, some essence. It's like, what the hell is essence? Like, if I pull this up for y'all, the name of gas, actually, names for gasoline around the world. Let me show y'all this map, just as a side note. So here's all the different names for what we call in America gasoline around the world. Most of the Americas calls it gasoline, but Argentina and Uruguay and also let's see, apparently actually Paraguay, they all call it naphtha. I don't know what that is. That's on up there. Oh. But the Spanish and Portugal are the only other countries in Europe that call it gasoline. Britain calls it petrol, and you can also tell where the British once held a colonial empire, because every single one of their former colonies calls it petrol as well. Then there's also the French with essence, which I just don't get. Like,
honestly, man, I feel like the only time you'd want to use like essence in America is if you're like going broke or something like that, and you can't really afford like a full tank of gas. You just kind of run your car on some essence. Like I got some essence of gas in the tank. Like I'm just going to run it on that. Like I'm running on essence at this point. You know how they said like running on fumes, but you're running on essence in France.
Dude, when French fighter pilots tell you that they're running on essence, they don't mean that they're out of fuel. They're fueled up. Like it's the opposite. Like I guess when they say that they're running on gas, then that's when they're out of fuel, instead of the other way around. But pretty much the rest of the world, crazily enough, calls it benzene, which is something that I actually did not know until recently, folks. This is actually a new discovery to me. But I was finding that quite interesting that most everyone in the world calls it benzene. And apparently China has no name for gasoline. That's a secret of the state, and if you know it, you're subject to like execution or something. And also North Korea just has an unidentified answer because they just don't have any. So also the Taliban apparently has no name for gasoline as well. It's just left blank. It's not even an other. It's just nothing. But anyways, moving on out of this, just to let y'all know what the French call gas, they call it l'essence. We're going to be moving on because the Russians are going to be left with just about that. It's going to be the essence of gas. They're not really going to have any benzene or anything else left. But moving on out of that and on into the rest of the news that we got throughout the whole of Russia, we also were able to hear that down in Bryansk, they took a little hit today, a couple of them actually, around Belaya Boroyska, or Boroska. That sounds like some pretty heavy hits, probably several of them. Bruh, your average afternoon near Oblast.
Man, I'll tell you, it really does sound like that, though. It sounds like a gang shootout down the street or something. It sounds similar.
Man, honestly. Afterwards, the property value started to decrease in this area. So moving on out of that area and on down into Rostov Oblast, we also were able to hear of some explosions down here. This Ukrainian drone did unfortunately get shot down. And we also saw this clip. Good God! Oh my God! Oh my
Man,
God!
that is like the most. That was like 2 or 3 major explosions. That was like bass boosted galore on that.
Oh my God, bro!
Hear that again. Let's hear that again. That last part.
Why did it sound like the whole world was ripping apart in this video? Let's listen to it again.
I don't know what that was. That part right there, that last one right there, whatever the hell blew up in that last part right there was serious. Like, that was bigger than the drone itself, whatever blew up the third time.
I'm not gonna lie, folks. I think Rostov is gone. Like, from what this clip sounds like, I think the whole Oblast got obliterated, like glassed by whatever this thing was. Look, it even shake the camera. Like, look at this right here. Like, oh my God.
I think that might have registered on the Richter scale, that last one.
Dude, I think that's why the earthquakes are happening in Russia is this. Dude, that Ukrainian drone was carrying, like, the holy hand grenade inside of that thing. I don't know what it is, but that thing was crazy. Beyond that, those were the clips we got out of the Rostov region today of the explosions there. We also saw that the Efipsky refinery just outside of Krasnodar was also hit as well today and did catch on fire, which you could see in this clip. No base-boosted explosions in this one, but still, it's quite nice to see the roaring flame.
Also, by the way, folks, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all, I've got a hell of a, like, Russian failed video coming up that's going to be on this channel in a few days, like in our intro, most likely. It's coming up. I got to find some new music for it, but I think you're going to like it. It's pretty funny.
Man, I wish we could play it with the music we had. Like honestly, it was like
Yeah,
the
I wish we
best.
could.
It was really good. Matthew was working on that all day today. It was supposed to be in our intro tonight, but we couldn't confirm whether the music was copyrighted or not, and we were kind of like on the fence about that. So then we decided not to run it, and also we were running really late on it too. So for all that stuff, it was scratched. But we are going to try and get it out to y'all because it was really funny. But moving on from that and on into the regions of Ukraine, and actually, really quickly, I do have to cover the Moldovan news. I was trying to think, is that part of the Ukraine news or not? It's kind of a separate thing. Apparently, it's believed, at least at the moment, I want to share this with y'all just in case if it does turn into something. According to the Institute for the Study of War, the Kremlin is setting conditions to generate possibly violent protests to remove Moldovan President Maya Sandu from power following the September 28th Moldovan parliamentary elections. We are not exactly sure what that would turn into if it does happen, but it is quite a concerning situation, and one that we will have to keep an eye on here in the coming days and weeks, especially considering that this election is coming up in a few days. And the Institute for the Study of War does a great deal of research. We also have to give them a shout-out. We respect their work greatly, and they also follow us on Twitter. So if they're saying that this looks like it's going to become a dangerous scenario, we generally would have good reason to believe that they have credible information to say such a claim. So we'll be waiting to see what's going on in that area in the coming days. Moving on from that, and on into the Ukraine news, we have to give you all a little bit of a comedic break. I know the whole explosion in Rostov was funny because it was so damn loud, but I also have something that we haven't had for a minute, the Rodniks section, and we have one contestant in the Rodniks section today, and that is this.
Oh my God, what the hell? Okay, what is the chassis? Like for serious for just a second, what is the chassis of this thing? Do you know?
It looks like an older Gaz.
I'll try to figure out what the hell this is. First of all, the shocks are blown. Like the shocks are gone in the back. That thing is sitting on rim or sitting on rubber or something. That thing is low. I don't know if is that because the guys in the back are so heavy they're lowering it down, or is that because the shocks are busted?
I think the shocks are busted and they're sitting on it. So I think it's both.
I think if you press the gas, I think you're going to probably burn the rubber off on the fender. I think this thing is like, that thing can't really roll. Did they have a video of the thing moving?
No, they only have a picture.
Okay,
I don't think it moves. Like, I don't think it moves.
Think it does. I don't think this thing's going anywhere. I think it's just a joke. Also, is that tree branches or is that wire or something that they got
wire
sticking out of it?
It's wire.
It's wire.
Yeah.
Oh, and what's that supposed to stop even? I'm trying to figure this out.
It's supposed to tickle the drones when they hit the car. Like when the drone hits the hood, those little things go tickle, 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 and then the drone blows up and sends the thing to happen.
They call this one the Diddy Mobile right here. I tell you what.
No Diddy.
Wilding out with this one. No Diddy with this one. But honestly, though, this is an abomination. This is probably like a level 8 out of 10 on the Bliat scale.
Also, why in the world is this guy smiling? He's acting like this is great.
I mean, it could be great for him. I mean, this could be top tier.
You know, Matthew, I actually heard that they filled this car up with essence in the hopes that they won't end up becoming essence from a Ukrainian drone attack by the time they're done with this thing. But we'll have to see if we see this thing out there at any point. But I got to be honest with y'all, this is one of the worst that we've actually seen recently. It's one of the few that we've seen recently, but it is bad. Like, this thing is incredibly bad. It gets worse when we go down the front today. But we also got the Russian casualty report as well, which was quite interesting. Oh, look at that! Oh, my goodness!
Oh, we got 2 Bobcats, too. That's very nice to see that. Look at that. You got 2 more. I like to see that, but tell us more.
2 Bobcat skid steers. And that is a wonderful day today. And Ms. Disa, keeper of the record, stated the 415 drones shot down is the fourth highest daily loss of the war. The highest MLRS and AAs since March of 2025, which is also great to hear. And Ukraine reported no planes, and the correct total is 426. So, let's break down the numbers. 940 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 2 APCs, 120 supply trucks, 38 artillery pieces, 415 drones, 5 MLRSs, 4 anti-aircraft systems, and 2 Bobcat skid steers. And that is an amazing and incredible sort of a thing to see. And it's a wonderful thing to know that the Ukrainians are really doing quite well, actually, I'd have to say. Moving on from that and on into the Kupyansk area, y'all want some proof that the Ukrainians are doing well, and we're about to give you all that proof from the 14th Mechanized Brigade, which was teaching some Russians lessons up in the Kupyansk area. And these weren't piano lessons. That thing be cooking. I'm not going to lie, Smokey the Bear had a stroke watching this war because there are so many fires that break out in the woods. But we can see also them hitting this drone. And we can also see them going for a Russian, that thing is a Rodnik section in its own. It's an MLRS built on a Buhanka pickup. I don't know what the hell that was. We hardly got to look at it, but they did blow it up. And the 14th Brigade did some work. Put in those hours. Put them in the hours. But moving down the line and past the area of the Severonsky forces, we didn't get a lot of news out of that front, and past the Seversk front and the Konstantinivka front, we are now going to be moving down to the Pokrovsk front, because we also saw that the 25th Airborne Brigade was hitting Russian soldiers within this direction, which was quite nice to see. And we can see one right there.
Also, by the way, for the people asking, Russia did lose an Su fighter jet. That was on the loss report as well. I think wasn't it Su-34 that they lost, I believe?
Yes. Earth is sky, skin is skin, all that stuff.
Yeah, fighter bomber and his like wonderful poetry that he comes up with. The guy is terrible at poetry, honestly. I know a couple of pilots, and they don't really even understand what fighter bomber is even saying. So I don't know if fighter bomber knows what he's saying either, to be honest with you. But he's a Ruski fellow, so I believe he's a Ruski fellow at least. Yes. So it is what it is.
From what we know, he is Russian. But we also know that generally sometimes psychological operations are outsourced to foreign countries. So we believe that he's Russian, we think.
Yeah, all those Polish accounts that you thought were Polish, well, it turns out that some of them were Indian accounts, actually. We found that out the other day.
It was shocking, really.
Actually, it wasn't that shocking, to be honest with you, because if you go to some of these pages and you look at the about section, it says India is the location. It's like, wait a minute. It's like a Polish guy who lives in Poland, in Krakow, with his location is India. I'm like, that doesn't seem to add up.
Did they mean Poland is in Poland, or did they mean Poland is in India? It's a great mystery.
They meant the city of India in Poland.
You know what, Matthew? You got a point. It makes sense. We also saw all of these destroyed vehicles that the Russians were having to drive by to get to the front. It's an endless line of them. By the way, the reason why they're all lined up like this on the road is that they were all destroyed on the road, and then the Russians just come through and push them off the road to keep the roadway clear. So this is all of the vehicles that have been destroyed in this road in just about the past several months. Why does it sound like a train going over riveted tracks?
It's got tough suspension, man. I'll tell you what, they're not known for their suspension.
Man, it's going click clunk, click clunk. I'm like, what in the world? Listen. This is insane. Oh my god.
Is this a Russian?
Yes. Duh.
Humbug.
Wow, anyways, moving on from there, we also did hear about that Su-34, just to skip forward to that, getting shot down today. Apparently, both of the pilots, from what I understand, were lost, at least from what I've heard today. But this is what was put out by Fighter Bomber today. And when you are suddenly left without skin, because they killed him, not you. That's deep. That's really
deep right there. I didn't even try to pick this apart earlier, but let's take a look at this for a second. Let's pretend like this is like a literature class. And when you were suddenly left without skin, interesting. Is that metaphor or is that literal? Because they killed him. I was like, who's him? And they said, not you. Okay. Honestly, if I had to take a stab at it, I think fighter bomber is more concerned about the aircraft getting destroyed than the pilot's safety, based on what I'm reading here, because it doesn't seem like he's really mentioning the pilot. He's kind of mentioning the plane.
Man, this is like that guy, like in the cartoons, like when someone would crash a plane and they'd fall out of it, like an ambulance would show up, they'd whip out the stretcher, they put the plane on the stretcher, get in the ambulance and drive off and just leave the guy there. I feel like that's a similar thing.
Yeah, I think it could be something like that right there. Also, I like that this fighter bomber guy, apparently has these like funeral-esque fighter like jet pictures like queued up in his like system or something like that. This looks like a perfect like fighter bomber picture right here for an Su-34 to show it at its like a little procession or something like that. A perfect jet.
Yeah, I gotta say, honestly, folks, I think I would be pretty unhappy if I was left without my skin. I feel like that'd be a really uncomfortable sort of an experience, so I'd like to keep my skin. I also don't, like, if you take this literally, and when you were suddenly left without skin, because they killed him, not you. So if they killed him, why did I have to lose my skin? Why am I degloved? Why am I degloved out of this whole thing? The other guy ended up getting killed, at least in this quote. I'm completely fine. Why did I lose my skin? Why is it gone? Where did it go? Who in the world's holding it right now? Do I get it back? Is there like a refund process? Do I just get new skin? What about the old skin? Like, is the old skin worthless now? Is it contaminated? Where did they put it? Did it get dirt on it? Like, I have a lot of questions about this, really, and none of this is making any sense to me, but they did lose an Su-34, and that is something that we can be pretty happy about. Moving on from that...
You gotta remember that if you don't have your skin or something like that, it sounds like it might be time to take a Tylenol. You might need a pain relief.
Now, before anyone takes a Tylenol, let's not get too hasty. Let's not get too hasty.
What can good can bad? What can bad can good?
Why say lot word when few word do trick?
Exactly.
Vote for me. Wait, hang on. Let me do it right. Vote me. Anyways, moving on. We did get to hear of a new Russian offensive being declared just south of Pokrovsk today, and it does appear that the Russians are making a little bit of ground. Just a little bit. It's not a lot. You would think it's a lot, but it's actually not. This front line's been looking like this for about a week. We're going to wait and see what this Russian offensive does turn into, but I'm not really knowing how far this is going to go. They could hit a brick wall. It did just start today, and we don't really know how far they've made it within a day, so we're going to have to watch this offensive and see what it turns into. Generally, most of them don't turn into anything, and if this one even makes several kilometers of ground, it would be shocking. We also got to hear that this is what the Russian assault today was made up of.
Амурка, привет!
Владивосток, привет! Комсомольская Амуре, привет!
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I think this guy's had a little drink.
Maybe, possibly, maybe.
He seems to be leaning back. He's slurring his words. His head's canted over to the side. Sir, walk in a straight line.
Honestly, I think he's completely sober. I think that's the crazy part.
Yo! Gramps is in the motorbike assault team? Like, what the hell? Bro, look at this guy.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. That actually looks like my very distant Uncle Sonny, actually, right there. He looks just like him, actually. And that guy was like 100.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. This guy seems like he's about to sit here and say something like, Russell, we gotta go to Paradise Falls. Like, it's like, bro, you don't need to be out here. You need to go be finding that sniper, whatever the hell. You're not supposed to be out here. Oh, he's old.
Man, the teeth are barely working. Oh, look, this guy too. Look at him. He's barely working with the teeth.
And then this guy, he just kind of looks normal. So.
По-любому, братан.
Yo! It's another... We're gonna get him, we're gonna beat him.
This guy right here sounded like that ghoul off that horror movie I heard. I can't remember the name of the horror movie. He literally sounded just like the ghoul. Could you back that up? Let's hear him again. Like, run that one back.
Would you like some chocolate? Chocolate? I remember when I used to have chocolate.
Why are their helmets so big? Like, all of them are
I don't
wearing...
know, man. These are these, you know what? There wasn't that group in America called the Rough Riders or something like that. I can't remember what president was related with the Rough Riders. Can you tell me real quick?
I don't know, but that's what their helmets are looking like. Like, that's what I know,
Honestly,
at least.
man.
Man,
These boys in Russia, they're really the Rough Riders. I'll tell you what, these are some rough people riding a bike. This is rough.
I'm not gonna lie, man. And on top of that, folks, this is what your average Russian assault bike squad member looks like with how big their damn helmets are. I've never seen helmets this big in my life. It's like they built them for giants. I mean, look at that. Like, it's not even on his head. It's just kind of like hanging on the top of it. Like, if a piece of shrapnel hits that thing like spins a little bit to hit the side of his head, and then it just rolls off. Like, it's not even gonna hang on. This guy doesn't even have the helmet on hardly. It's like almost off of him.
Oh my God. Honestly though, like being serious, this is sad. Like these guys right here are clearly not fit to be fighting in this whole situation right here. I mean, this guy right here, like, I'm not even sure if he really is like fully aware of where he's at. Like just by the way he's acting, like he looks like he's just happy to be here. And I'm not even sure if he knows what he's about to even go do. He just thinks he's out here for like a dirt bike ride. And it turns out it's about to be a lot dirtier than he thought.
Man, like, honestly, it's really sad. It is actually sad. I'll show you the whole clip, though, because this is the condition of the Russian army currently. This is nothing shocking. This is actually somewhat normal for the Russian army nowadays.
Uh-oh.
Вот он. Настоящий патриот России. Амурка, наш.
Why they put the old guys at the front? These are younger guys back here that might be more fit to serve. The guys at the front they got going first are the ones that are in the worst shape.
Yeah, honestly, this doesn't really seem like it makes much sense. Why are they all wearing their helmet like that? Like, what in the world's making them all do this?
Ill-fitting, just lazy purchosing.
Ну тебя второй.
Oh, there's another old guy there.
Oh,
Whoa, hey buddy,
Whoa,
chill.
whoa, whoa,
Whoa. Wait a minute, we almost got a guy here remembering what he's saying is the good days. Calm down, buddy. This is not that time, and that stuff isn't really accepted anymore at all. And I don't. Anyways.
По-любому нахуй.
Uh-oh, got another one. Got another one. Oh,
yeah. Actually, Matthew, I just remember that other guy wasn't doing what we thought he was doing. He was just waving to the crowd. He was just waving.
Oh yeah, he was just waving.
Yeah, he's just waving. Clearly, like it's not like he was doing anything else. He just waved.
Алтайский край, Алтайский район, привет всем.
Тюменская область, город Тюмень, салам алейкум.
Yo.
That guy looks familiar. He looks like somebody I've seen before. I can't remember their name off the top of my head.
I can't remember this guy's name off the top of my head either, but he looks familiar. I'd have to agree.
Он тоже живой еще. Да, плюс. Все, мужики. Красавчики. Победа будет за нами.
That's a part of the offensive that's going on down there right now. So y'all tell me, do y'all think they're going to make any ground, or do you think they're going to pretty much get stopped where they're at? That's up to the question. It's a really, really deep question we're asking here. Also, we got to hear of the drones flying over Mariupol. We believe these are the ones that made it into Rostov earlier, well, in the stream, and were the ones that shattered the Earth's core, like we saw on the security camera. Well, that's that. It was just a noise of the drone, but we did get to see it because we heard it. Moving on down into Crimea, we also were able to hear that the Crimeans are looking for gas. There's not much of it, and the queues are going on forever. We'll have to mute that because I don't know if YouTube's that particular, but people are waiting forever for some gas. Look at this line over there on the left. It goes on and on and on. It doesn't stop.
I don't think you're going to get it. I think it's going to be out.
I think, Matthew, by the time they get up there's only going to be some vapors left, or, as they say, essence left.
We will save the essence of gas for a ruble piece.
If someone told me that they were selling me essence And then they told me later that that's gasoline. I feel like they're scamming me. Like, I feel like they're scamming me. Because that sounds like vapors. And I wouldn't want to buy no vapors of gas. I want to buy that gas. But we also got to see some fuel tankers on the move through Crimea, which might be trying to relieve the fuel crisis, but I don't really think this is going to be doing much.
Идут с Керчи на Симферополь. Ожидайте.
Man, I don't think that's going to help. I think there's just so much of a demand for gas and such a little supply of it that they're even bringing in. It's not going to change much of anything. And so the Russian economy will continue to deteriorate. And a lot of people are wondering at this very moment right now that if a Russian fighter jet was shot down by NATO, would World War III ensue? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so jumping off to a different topic real quick on this poll question, the Russians today said that if any of their fighter jets get shot down by NATO, then World War III will ensue pretty much immediately after that. So do you believe it? Because the Russians are known to exaggerate from time to time. That's putting it lightly. So what do you think? 36% said yes, Russia would go to war over their fighter jet getting shot down, regardless of if it was justified or not, while 35% said no, Russia would not do anything, and 23% said it seems like a 50-50 chance. And I'll be honest with you, folks, I think Russia is trying to provoke something. So if NATO shoots down their fighter jet, they might decide to go to war. Actually, with the 36%, they probably would. But here's my thing, though. What are we going to do? Just because Russia is threatening to go to war, we're going to let fighter jets invade our NATO airspace and do nothing about it? That's obviously not an option, in my opinion. So why the hell are we going to let the fighter jets fly over to avoid a war when they're literally causing a war by coming into our airspace? If Russia wants their fighter jets in peace, or in one piece, that is, if they want it in pieces, they can fly straight over NATO airspace and we can chop it up for them a little bit and give it back to them in a dumpster if they want it back that way. But if they want to keep their fighter jets nice and whole and in one tact piece, they can simply keep it over Russian airspace and they'll solve all their problems. But I'm not sure if NATO's going to follow through with it, to be straight up honest. But Enforcer, what say you?
Matthew, are you trying to say that Russian planes are chopped?
They're going to get it. They're going to chop the Russian plane up, the Russian fighter jet, and give it back to them in the little dumpster. They're going to give it back to them as scrap.
Man, they're going to give it back to him chopped. Like, man, but beyond that, I'd have to say that I would be, personally, with the 35%. I really don't think they're going to do much of anything. Because, Turkey shot down an Su-24 in 2015, and they really didn't do anything in response to that. And I have a feeling that if we shot down a Russian plane now, they probably wouldn't do that much. And if they did, oh well. What were we supposed to do? Keep letting the Russians violate our airspace and our sovereignty of our country and continuing to put our citizens under threat? No. Obviously, we're going to shoot it down anyway. So if they go to war with us, they're going to war and they're pretty much generally signing their own death warrant at that point. They're not going to make it to the end. If they decide to do nothing, well, that's good. And they ought to not do that again because it'll happen again. That's generally how I would look at it because that's really the only option we have at this point. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion. And also, folks, speaking of opinions, which everyone has, I know that many people have a lot of questions, which is generally something that everyone has. Everyone has plenty of questions. And considering that we have actually covered the very last piece of our news for the day, and there was no speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky today of Ukraine, it is time for us to move on into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And I gotta say that it has been one hell of a stream again tonight, and we are absolutely proud to have been the ones to be able to cover the news for all of y'all over the course of about 2 straight hours. We got 26,000 live viewers at the peak, and 152,000 people have watched this stream in about 2 hours. We've got to say that we are entirely honored and greatly appreciative that all of y'all have enjoyed this channel tonight, and hopefully will subscribe to it if you haven't been. This channel continues to grow day over day, and Enforcer Matt's video today has done insanely well, getting us from 499,400 subscribers, I believe, all the way up to 503,415 subscribers, a whopping growth of about 4,000 subs. And that's a crazy amount of people to get in a single day here on this channel. And the channel keeps growing, day over day, week over week, year over year, month over month, number by number, person by person, subscriber by subscriber, and you could be the next. Make sure to subscribe. That actually kind of sounded like a threat saying you could be next, but but it's not. You could be the next subscriber. Subscribe today, and you will be able to join the Lee Spring Army and the Enforcer channel as we continue to grow on the march now towards 1 million. Or generally just kind of like 750,000. I think that's going to be the next major milestone. But anyways, with that, folks, it's time for us to move on into those questions. And I understand that we have a lot of them, Matthew. So please take it away.
All right, folks. So also, by the way, we are seeing some more breaking news happening right now at this moment. I'm trying to get some information here on it to actually get some idea of exactly what has caused this. But to report to you what I know at the moment, it looks like there is currently a situation going on. It looks like in New York City right now. It looks like there's been a blackout reported at Grand Central Terminal in New York City. I am seeing a video of it right here. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to show the video because it is filmed in America. And there might be some copyright issues with it. So it looks like there is a total blackout, or at least a pretty large blackout right now at Grand Central Terminal. So not sure what has led to that. It looks like they're trying to get the lights turned back on. And once again, I'm not sure if this is connected to some sort of escalation, maybe by someone else. I'm not really sure. I don't want to escalate too much or speculate too much on that right now. I want to wait and see what this is first before we make any unfounded speculation. But Enforcer, what say you?
That is quite interesting to hear. The Grand Central Terminal, also known as Grand Central Station, is a beautiful piece of New York City architecture, filled with architectural styles of I believe it's the New York Central, if I'm not mistaken. It is a wonderful and gorgeous building. Very unfortunate to hear that it's in a blackout at the moment, and we'll be trying to see if we can get any more information and news to be able to update all of y'all on the ongoing situation that's happening at Grand Central Station. So we will have to see. But also, that view is quite striking, Matthew, of the Chrysler Building right off pretty much 2 blocks down.
Yeah, it's really striking right there, I must admit. Also, they have a taxi like phone booth thing right there. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Honestly, this grandson. Oh my goodness, that's Kim Jong Un.
The hell?
Man, what the hell? But anyways, oh man, hey, that isn't Grand Central Station. That's I think, folks, that's Mount Rushmore. I might be mistaken on that. I don't know. Maybe it's the Liberty Bell. I'm not really sure. But that is sure as hell is not Grand Central Station. I mean, that's just crazy. Also, oh, cool, man. Look, they actually have all of the train info up here above the ticket counter like they used to have back in the day. That's actually really cool.
That is interesting right there. I kind of like that. It's nice old school.
Man, old school. Old school. But still, interesting here. We'll keep an eye on that and try and keep you all apprised. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to get on into our questions. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so moving back into our Super Chat questions, our first one here is going to go to James Hughes. And James puts in a massive $200 support.
Hey!
And thank you very much, James, for that massive support right there. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And that's very generous of you. James said, congrats on the 500,000 and 1 million in 2026.
Hey, and I hope that we do hit 1 million in 2026. We all would hope for 1 million in 2026. That would be crazy, folks, if we hit 1 million, because I think right now the Enforcer channel, let me go check this really quickly. The Enforcer channel at this moment right now is the 35,000th largest channel in the United States of America, which most active YouTube channels in the world are either active in India or the United States. So that's actually pretty crazy. We are the 165th largest, 165,000th largest channel in the whole of the world. And there are about 33 or 34 million active uploading YouTube channels on YouTube every day. So at this point, I don't know what the percentage would be, but we are well within the top 1% of YouTube channels in terms of size, which is really crazy. And if you get up towards 1 million, you're way, way up there. I think you're in like the top 0.1% for sure at that point. So that's a really crazy sort of a thing to think that the channel is growing and exploding like that. And hopefully we'll be able to see that it does hit 1 million in 2026. That'd be absolutely crazy. We've worked incredibly hard over the past 3.5 years to get this thing to where it is right now to 500,000 subscribers, and we will continue to work hard, tirelessly, every single day to get it on up to 1 million subscribers, hopefully, and we love to know that people have been enjoying our work to even get it to 500,000 right now. So a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I see a viewer in the live chat saying that they saw a post on Twitter about Denmark closing their airspace over AAL once again. I believe that's from earlier because I haven't heard any new reports of them closing the airspace again. But we did hear before we went live that there was another drone incursion about an hour or two before we went live, and they closed some airspace around an airport in Denmark. So I don't think there's been a new one unless I've missed it. But I've been monitoring Twitter throughout the entire stream, and so far I haven't seen it. But if I do, I will let you know. But moving into our next one here, our next super chat. This one is going to go to none other than Andrew Barbro, another channel legend, and he puts in a $100 donation, and a huge shout to Andrew for that massive support as well. He said, "Congrats, gentlemen, and I have enjoyed the ride for a long time, and keep it going."
Hey, thank you so much for support, Andrew Barbro, and thank you for enjoying the ride. We are more than happy to have you along, hearing the news every day, and we're very thankful to have some people who do enjoy our news and do greatly appreciate it. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to keep this channel running and make this thing possible. So a massive, humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and a huge thanks to you once again for the support. Also, I see someone in here trying to stir the pot. Oh, it's some Russian bot, I'm sure. Someone said, Europe is unarmed and defenseless after the military. The citizens couldn't get themselves out of a wet paper. That is so BS. Anyone who says that is one of the most ignorant people alive. Europe is the most well-armed continent on the planet. Europe alone. Europe has as many active serving members and combined as large a military budget as the United States. So that is so stupid. I think that's the stupidest thing whenever people say that the Europeans are pampered and they're little little daisies or little pansies or something like that can't do anything. Combined, they are about as devastating and dangerous as the United States. So whoever says that, like, it's I wouldn't even respond to folks like that, folks. That's someone just trying to sit there and rile up the Europeans to hate the Americans and the Americans to resent the Europeans because the Europeans, quote unquote, are sucking off of the American teeth or something like that and just living the high life, which they're not. Like, one thing I will say though, is that, yeah, Europe does have generally more public amenities and facilities, but that's just because their civil governments do that, as opposed to here in America where they act like that's a luxury instead of a required necessity. And I always find that so stupid. Because people will sit there and go, look at Japan, and look at China, and look at South Korea and Europe, and look at how advanced and nice their public facilities are, like their public transport, and America doesn't have any of that. We're so far behind. It's like, it's just a matter of funding. And nobody in America wants to give any funding to anyone for any of that stuff. Like Metro, scratch it, give them no funding. Amtrak, scratch it, give them no money. Like, most people want to give none of these groups any money to expand or build out their infrastructure or their abilities, and then they sit there and complain, hey, everyone else is so far ahead of us, I wonder why. It's like, because you're not voting for people who actually make that a priority. It's like, you know, that's just the truth across the board. It's not like a left or right thing. It's just an American thing. No party wants to put out the money on that because none of their voters really want to put out the money on that at all. It's like, if you just had your representatives, you know, focus on those sorts of things, we could have one of the greatest and most powerful militaries in the world like we currently do, and we could also have a lot of civil amenities to go with that and a great deal of infrastructure that we do not have. Like, if you look at a place like Salt Lake City where they actually put money into that sort of thing, they have an actual fleshed out transportation system, and it works. And it's crazy because they just did that for the hell of it, and they just decided to, and they funded, and it works well. So anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Frostbit Jenna, last name Tolls, who puts in a massive $100 donation once again. And thank you very much, Jenna, for that massive support right there. We do appreciate that very, very much. Longtime channel legend, by the way. They said, can we get the marmot out here? And for 500K.
The marmot? Could we get the marmot out here? I think we could. Let's get a little look at that marmot fella. Yeah. Oh, hello there. Hey!
Hello there. Hello there, Governor. How you doing there, good sir? Welcome back. It's Marmot. If you're new to the channel, this is a brief moment of insanity. Please indulge us for a brief moment. This Marmot here is a thick one. He has lots of fur. He has lots of fat. He has a tail that could wallop the best of them. He has 3 plums that he has to offer, and rock. Some rock. But of course, that's something there you have to be very cautious about, is rock. But what's that fly saying down there, eh?
Aw, man. 500,000. Boo-hoo. Aw, man. This is absolutely terrible. Boo-hoo-hoo. But it is a wonderful thing to have the marmot and the fly. It's a wonderful and incredible thing. And like Callie on Fire said, now this is news, and this is news, this is. And I gotta say that it's an amazing and incredible thing to see Alan the Marmot here tonight. Alan the Marmot, folks, if y'all don't know, if you're new to the channel tonight, is the channel mascot of this channel. One time, we started talking about marmots, which are kind of a mammal that live here in the Americas, and we pulled up the Wikipedia page on it, and this was one of the first paintings ever made by a European of a marmot, and the guy had never seen a marmot ever in his life. So he ended up generally painting it off of what someone told them they looked like, and this is what he came up with. It doesn't look at all like a marmot. It looks like a giant rat. But this thing ended up becoming a mascot because it was so ridiculous looking, and we came up with a goofy voice for it when we saw it. And so we have kept this thing around as a mascot of the channel to this day. So if you have not ever heard of Alan the Marmot, this is Alan the Marmot, one of our channel mascots, and we love to bring it around here and there and indulge in a little bit of insanity by joking around and making pretty much an entire skit involving Alan the Marmot and the fly, which is like the side character, which is this little fly down here. And apparently the artist had never looked at a fly up close either, because this thing has 8 legs instead of 6. So not only did the guy not know what a marmot looked like, he didn't even know what a common housefly looked like, which was a little odd, considering that houseflies are everywhere around the world and aren't really special to any specific continent. But anyways, with that,
You know what they say. You know what they say. Sometimes these painters take artistic liberties and stuff like
Liberty?
that. And yeah, sometimes they take artistic liveries. Sometimes they do the nice F-15 livery. They do it nice Ukrainian colors. You know, the blue and the yellow and all that stuff right there. You gotta love it.
You gotta love them. You gotta love them. And also, apparently, the artist smeared some blood accidentally at some point. I don't know if he murdered someone while painting this thing, but right in front of the mouth of the marmot, so it makes it look like it's hacking up blood. That's not supposed to be a part of the painting, by the way. It just happens to be there. So, anyways.
He put his blood, sweat, and tears into this painting, literally.
Man, you can see all the teardrops, like, all around here. Like, there they all are. He really did put his blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. I mean, that might be a mixture of sweat and tears. But still, this is Alan the Marmot. And so, I hope that does address that the best I can. A massive thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, Inflamed, Jenna, last name Tolls, we wouldn't be able to see Alan the Marmot on such a momentous day and occasion and induct so many new people who are here with us tonight into this absolutely silly tradition of this channel. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat here goes to Denis Davidov, a fellow YouTuber and also a friend of the channel. And thank you very much, Denis, for that 100, is that
Swiss francs.
Switzerland dollars right there?
Swiss francs.
Switzerland francs right there. So Switzerland dollars. And thank you very much, Denis, for that 100 Switzerland right there. We do appreciate that right there. And it's a franc, as Enforcer says. But Denis said, stay awesome, Enforcer crew and followers.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Dennis Davidov. And I gotta say, you stay awesome, Dennis Davidov. Great to hear from you again, and thank you for being here tonight on the night that we hit 500,000 subscribers. Actually, funnily enough, folks, if I remember correctly, last time we spoke to Dennis, he actually said that he watches the channel somewhat regularly, and he's generally considered to be a friend of the Lee Spring Army. And so it's great to have you here tonight, and thank you for the support and the congratulations on 500,000 subscribers. The Lee Spring Army and the Enforcer channel has come a long way from its first days, from when I was sitting here playing War Thunder and trying to cover the news on the first day of the war, to about a month later, Enforcer Matt joined me, and then we have taken this thing on to the stars over the next 3.5 years, on up to 500,000 subscribers. Something, I think, on YouTube, not really often heard of. And it's really crazy to think that we've made it this far, and really cool to know that you're here with us tonight, celebrating that momentous milestone, 500,000, and hopefully another 500,000 to go from here. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that amazingly well, and thank you so much once again for being here with us tonight. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we are moving on to our next one here, which goes to Bobby43, also known as LC39A once again, and he
Hey!
puts in a $100 donation. And thank you very much, Bobby, for that second support of the night. He said, when you said tickle the drone, I totally lost it.
And I would have to say that I was honestly about to lose it as well. That whole car was just ridiculous. And I do thank you for enjoying the joke. I love to know that people do love our jokes and find them funny because, oh goodness, folks, we take a gamble every time we make a joke on this channel. We don't have a script. So every time we make a joke, it's literally just off the top of our heads. So we're always praying that they're funny. And some people tell us to stick to our day job, which this is our day job. So we thank y'all for the compliment. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much for the support, Bobby43, and helping the channel to keep it running. I thank you for really liking that joke. Usually, sometimes a joke really hits a funny bone with folks. And I love to know that that one was the joke that hit your funny bone. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one, but a humongous thanks to you so much once again, Bobby43, because you've been helping this channel to keep rolling for quite some time and hopefully well on into the future. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next super chat here. This one is going to be a $100 support from actually a $75 support from none other than Espen Turgenhagen. And thank you very much, Espen, for that support, and we do appreciate it as well. He said, hello there, and take one from the chat in LSA.
And we will make sure to take one from the chat. But a huge thanks to you, Espen Turgenhausen, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we will make sure to take one from the chat in your honor. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And what do we got, Matthew, for Espen Turgenhausen?
And this one, and from the live chat, it's going to go to Neo Saturn, who said, will Russia do a cyber attack before they kick something off with NATO? Honestly, I think they will, Neo Saturn. I think they will, because we've currently seen, and once again, it's really hard to pinpoint who's conducting cyber attacks, because usually the people that are capable of conducting large-scale cyber attacks that actually take down critical infrastructure, those hackers are usually good enough to cover their tracks, unless they want to take public credit for the hack itself. So we've seen recently, there's been a widespread hack on airports across Europe, including the UK, and nobody really could pinpoint who did that. So if they know who did it, they're keeping it quiet, or if they don't know who did it, that means the group didn't take credit for it. So I think the Russians would probably do that, and if the Russians don't do it, they might enlist the Chinese to do the cyber attack on their behalf, which would cause, obviously, a huge problem in Europe, because when you have your infrastructure getting taken down before a war starts, that's not good. But also, at the same time, Europe has the United States, which has a very potent cyber defense force and cyber offensive force that could launch a similar attack on the Russians and leave them crippled in the event of war as well. So that's also possible. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, at least in my opinion, I would generally believe that I'd have to have the question reread to me because I forgot it.
They said, do you think that Russia's going to do a cyber attack before they kick something off with NATO?
I would have to say most certainly, because it would be something that would give them a slight advantage, at least at the opening of a conflict. And any avenue of attack that can give an advantage, including that in cyberspace, is one that would be conducted at the outbreak of a war. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can. And also, folks, before we move on, I saw someone named Derek in the chat state, these guys tell lots of lies. I have an idea, Matthew, before you get him. Two truths, well, actually, two lies and a truth. Okay, so here they are. I'm a multi-millionaire. I am actually from Mars, and you're banned. Okay, so out of those, which one is the truth, and which ones are the lies? And it appears, Matthew, which one do you think is true?
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember.
It's not that hard. You just banned him. Like, it's the one where it said he was banned. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jay Tevis. And thank you very much, Jay Tevis, for that $50 support. He said, well-deserved, Enforcers, and I'll see you at 1 million.
Hey, and thank you so much for support. We will see you at 1 million as well. We are working hard back here behind the scenes to keep the news coming, and we hope that we continue to grow this thing on up into a 1 million subscriber YouTube channel, which would be unbelievable. I don't think Matthew and me can really mentally grasp that. I'll be honest with y'all, it really is hard to mentally grasp that we've even gotten to 500,000 at this point. Like, at least for me, because I never really expected that the channel would get this far. So seeing it at 500,000, it's honestly kind of insane. because now this channel is a far bit larger than any of the YouTube channels that I used to watch growing up. Like, there's a couple of them out there that are a good bit larger still, but still a lot of them that I remember watching, they are smaller than this channel now, and that's so weird, honestly, folks, because I remember way back in the day, like, and I know Matthew probably has a similar experience with this. Way back in the day when I first started the channel, like I would watch YouTube channels with like 150,000 subs, or 80,000 subs, or 200,000 subs, or even 300 or 400. And I used to think, wow, those channels are freaking huge. Like, they're monolithic. There's no way that we'll ever be able to get to that size. I mean, these people really just have the category down, like whatever they're doing. And now we're at 500,000, and a lot of those channels are now smaller than ours. And it's so weird to me, because I'm like, that is bizarre. I'm like, I don't really know if we deserve this many subscribers, because a lot of those people, I really have high opinions of them. I'm like, they really deserved all those subscribers. Now we're larger than them. I'm like, I don't know. Like, do we really deserve all these subscribers and all these folks enjoying our show? And I said, yes, we do, because y'all did subscribe, and we don't really have any free will or choice on that. But still, it's wild.
I can tell you what. We're definitely putting the hours in. I can tell you that for certain. These days, especially with the news ramping up over the last couple of weeks, I have been literally waking up, eating, sleeping those 24/7. Like, no joke. Like, and I'm not even trying to exaggerate that just to be like, oh, I'm on this 24/7. I am literally on Twitter, responding to fans on the emails, responding to business dealings and things like that. Or I'm on the show, or I'm doing short war videos, Patreon, something. I am literally on here 24/7 these days. I feel like Wolf Blitzer, the way I'm on here 24/7. You know how he's like on there 24/7? I don't even know if Wolf Blitzer even sleeps anymore. I'm not even really sure. I feel like him now. I'm like, oh, that's how it works. So you just work on it all the time.
Man, I feel like Wolf Blitzer is the only guy left at CNN. Like, anymore, he's on there like 24/7 now. Like, man, honestly, man, when you look at the payroll at CNN, I bet you it's like half Wolf Blitzer and then everyone else. It makes up the other half at this point. I mean, honestly, what's even crazier, folks, is that Wolf Blitzer is at like retirement age, and it's like he's working hard to save up for retirement. It's like, bro, you can retire, you're good. It's like you could go, like, you can go home and enjoy your family and everything. And he's still out there on that grind. Man, Wolf Blitzer's on that grind. He is on that business.
It's not always about the money. Like Wolf Blitzer's found out. I think that's why Wolf stays on CNN, is because he's found out that if he goes home and does nothing, he's bored. So, and you can have all the money in the world and go home and sit home and be bored as hell, and still the money doesn't matter. You got to have fulfillment. So I think that's why he's still doing the whole like news anchor thing, because he has to have something to do, and that's his calling. So honestly, if I had nothing else to do, and let's say one day I was like, okay, I've got enough money to retire now, so I'm just going to retire, I would still do those if I was given the option. I wouldn't just say, okay, I'm good now, I'm just leaving. Because if it's what you enjoy doing, why would you leave? It's like, what are you going to do otherwise? Just go sit on the couch and wait or something?
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, honestly, folks, when you find something that you do for work that makes you feel like you have a lot of purpose and a reason for doing it, you really don't want to quit it. Because even when I'm sitting here, like on off days, whenever I'm not doing this, I always sit there and have like a half of me, on Mondays, that is. That's the only day we don't run the show. I'll sit here on Monday afternoons, I'll be like, damn, I don't really have anything to do. And then the other half of me is like, well, thank the Lord I don't. Let's just take it easy right now and get ready for the next 6 days. But still, I wouldn't really know what to do if we did nothing. And so I think I'd just do this even if we didn't have to. Like, if we ever got signed on, like a major company pretty much bought our show for, hundreds of millions of dollars or some crazy amount like that, I would probably still sit here and just run the show anyways. I wouldn't retire, because it's like, what would I do for the rest of my life? I feel like I get a lot of purpose out of doing this, and it's great. It's a wonderful thing to know that so many people find worth in this, because a lot of people hear about major news events and developments around the world that you wouldn't hear of otherwise. Like, we're really reshaping the way news is told and heard out here in America and around the world, really, at least here in the West. And I find a lot of pride in that, more so than I do in the fact that this pays our bills as a job. But that's just my personal take on that. Matthew would probably agree with that lock and step. Matthew, would you?
And what was it again, real quick? I was reading the chat.
I forgot. I honestly forgot.
Oh.
But
Okay.
I think he would agree with it. I think he would agree with it. What it was, I don't really know, because I was reading the chat right after I said that to you, Matthew. I started reading the chat, and then you're like, oh, what was it? I was like, I don't even know anymore. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And y'all know as of right now, I've officially read something like 30,000 live chats for the night or something like that. I've read every single one because I read every single chat that comes in as fast as they're coming in. And also, I think tonight's chat rate was something like 250 chats a minute or something like that.
Oh,
It
it's
was some
more.
crazy high chat rate. Yeah, I think it went even higher than that. So, honestly, I'm just burning my brain down. I tell you what, it's like my brain is just looking at this chat and it's going so fast. It's like at a train over speed or something like that.
Well, before we move on, actually, I want to show you all this to give you all an idea, just in case we're missing your hellos or anything, because I know a lot of people are like, dang, the Enforcer Matt missed my hello. They must hate me. No, that's not the case at all. It's just that there's so many people who always are chatting. It's an insane number that we really can't respond to most people most of the time. I'll show y'all. This is what last night looked like. We got 37,149 independent chat messages. And at some points, like right here, there were 2,775 chat messages within about a 3-minute period. And at the peak, that was 1,634 chats in 1 single minute. So they're going by so fast we can't even read any of them. During the question segments, though, it gets down to a nice, manageable, like the double digits. It's nothing too bad. But beyond that, it's absolutely insane, especially during the news segment, and that's why we unfortunately can't really address and say hello to all of y'all. As a matter of fact, the 10-minute intros are getting so fast these days with how many people are typing in them. We really can't even say hello to everyone anymore, and that's kind of been hurting Matthew and me a little bit, because we always loved to say hello to each and every person who said hello to us directly with a little @ in the handle and all that, and we would always say hello to everyone. And now there's just so many people who are coming in and saying hello, we can't even get to all of y'all, which is really sad, actually. I don't really like that too much, but it's just kind of a fact of the channel growing. But still, unfortunately, that's why we can't get to all of your chat messages, and Matthew's probably dealing with about another 40,000 tonight. And I also read them while I talk. Like, every single moment that I'm talking on air, I'm actually looking over the chat and reading it. It's just that, unfortunately, I don't really get to react to a lot of it, because, you know, we have to keep a show running, and if I try to react to a lot of it, it would literally be like milliseconds to react to each of them, because there's so many of them. But a little bit of a side note for all of y'all to know. That's why we don't really get to respond to every single chat message that comes in. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And it's time for us to move on to the next one.
All right. And also, by the way, we have approximately, I'm just doing some number crunching real quick. We have approximately 90 super chats to get to. So we'll have to keep the pacing somewhat moderate tonight to be able to get through the super chats. Or otherwise, we'll be on here until 3 a.m. in the morning. And then the Enforcer is going to somehow make a short war video tomorrow. So we're going to have to make a moderate speed here to get through the super chats. But moving on to our next one here. This one goes to none other than Beef Taco, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Beef Taco, for being a channel legend, and we do appreciate that very, very much. And he said, keep up the great work, Enforcers and LSA, and your work is important and will only become more beneficial as the clock strikes closer to 12.
And I gotta thank you so much for the support and the kind words, and hopefully it will be beneficial to folks from here and forevermore. So a huge thanks to you so much once again for support and the kind words, Beef Taco. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to H.H. Madsen, who throws in a $50 support. And thank you very much, H.H. Madsen. They said, so nice. I knew the Canadians would be pro-Europe, pro-freedom. Love your content. Oh, wait, you're American.
Oh.
Well, I guess it's good content. We're still friends? Sarcasm. And yes, we're still friends with the Canadians. Absolutely. And they said, thank you for the content, gents. Awesome work from Madsen, Skanderborg, DK.
Oh, you're from Denmark. We're gonna burn. I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm just playing. I really think Denmark is cool. I think the Danes are really cool people. Or the Danish, as they're sometimes called. Danish, they're interchangeable. But beyond that, I gotta thank you for the support and the kind words. And it's always good to know that people enjoy our channel from around the world. And of course, we're friends. We're great friends. And friends until the end is what I say about all of our allies here in the Western world. And I gotta thank you for being one of those folks in one of those Western countries that is one of our friends. And I gotta thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to say nice and peaceful things like your government should shoot down the drones. Like, we wouldn't be able to say that stuff if it wasn't for your support. So a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And also, one day I would like to come to Copenhagen. There's this thing called DIP here in the South, and all of them are generally Copenhagen. And I want to come to the land of Copenhagen to see if it really is there. Huh?
That's snus.
No, I think that's a Dane.
It says snus.
I think those are Danish people, Matthew. Like, I'm just playing. I'm just kidding with you. But I think it is it's dip. That's all I know it as. Like that's a. But you're saying
Snus is Swedish tobacco product consumed by placing pouch of powdered tobacco leaves under the lip for nicotine to be absorbed orally. So I think you're talking about snus.
I was talking about the Danish as a people. Like, but I'm just kidding. By the way, I'm just playing. And I think it is that. I think it is. And look at that little fortress ring that they have here in Copenhagen. Honestly, this place is really cool. You know, everyone, like, bombarded Copenhagen, I think 7 times during the Napoleonic Wars. Every time anything went wrong, they just sailed to Copenhagen and obliterated. I don't know why. Well, it's because it was in a vital shipping lane. But, you know, I will just make it sound like it's a mystery. Like, I don't know why. What? No, what?
I was just laughing here. I saw someone in here. I'm not trying to like clown on him or anything like that. I mean this in good jest. But someone said you snort snus. I don't think so. I don't think you're supposed to do that.
I think that's snow. I think that's the other.
Don't do that either. That's not good. Don't do that. But snus, I think that's something that is like it's like a little pouch or something like that. I think what's that viral one that everybody's talking about? I don't do it, by the way. I don't touch tobacco or anything like that. Bad. Yeah, that's right. The Zen thing. That's all right. That one that Tucker Carlson keeps mentioning on all like those different places. Yeah, it's just Zen. It's not a sin.
Yeah, dude, you do that too well. Honestly, it's like uncanny. But yeah, I think it is that. Also, is this their opera? Oh, dang. Oh, wow.
That's not the Grand Ole Opry I'm familiar with.
Man, that ain't no Grand Ole Opry. That's some giant slate on a building. What else do they? They have the fortress, the Star Fortress. It's got a windmill and old barracks. I like this place. This is cool. Wow, look at that. The natural beauty. Honestly, I do want to go to Copenhagen, folks. It looks really nice.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I like nice greenery. I like greenscapes, nice little places to walk, stuff like that. A little bit of water, a little bit of greenery, a little bit of trees, shrubbery. I like that kind of stuff like that. I tell you what, I got to have it. I like it. Europe's nice.
And you know what's crazy, folks, is that Denmark, if you didn't know, a lot of Americans may be surprised with this, because in America, all we know is the royal family of the UK. But Denmark also has its own royal family, as well as Sweden and, I believe, Norway. I believe they all have their own separate monarchies, and if I'm not mistaken, the Netherlands also has its own monarchy as well. And so I believe the Netherlands is officially the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Yeah, it actually is. So they actually are also a monarchy as well. Quite interesting stuff. A lot of people don't think of it like that. You know, a lot of people think that in Europe there are a large amount of parliamentary democracies, presidential republics, federal republics, and so on. But there's actually still a lot of monarchies that are left in Britain. Oh, not in Britain, in Europe. And most of them are in Northern Europe. And also there's one still in Spain. But anyways, with that, we do have to keep up a quick pace tonight, folks. Chipper pace. We still have a lot of super chats left. So massive thanks to you once again for support. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Richard McGurl. And Richard puts in a 50. And thank you very much, good sir Richard, for that support. He said for the pizza fund and the coffee fund.
Hey, and thank you for the pizza and coffee fund. And we will be making sure to have some pizza and coffee hopefully soon. And so a big thanks to you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Harvey the drummer. And thank you very much, Harvey, for that $50 support as well. We appreciate that. He said, let's go, boys. And crap is about to hit the fan. And thank you for your continued dedication to the truth and unbiased reporting. LSA to the top. And next stop, 1 million subs.
Hey, and I hope 1 million. Don't we all? But still, a massive thanks to you for the kind words and the support and helping this channel to keep it running. It certainly does look like we are on the edge of something kicking off. And hopefully we can find a way to avoid it. But I'm doubting that at this point. And we'll just have to be ready and face whatever we have to here in the future. But still, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best that we can. And a massive thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Marion Deemer, who puts in a 50. And thank you, Marion, as well, for that support. And they said, for pizza and coffee, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava.
Hey, and thank you so much for support to the Pizza and Coffee Fund. And Slava Ukrainian, or Slava. And I got to thank you massively, Marion Deemer. You were an old guard and a channel legend. We're always massively appreciative of folks like you being here and helping this channel to keep rolling. And with that, we're on to the next one.
You know, I just can't wait to show the people that video that I made Enforcer tomorrow. Like, I just can't wait. Like, I was sitting here thinking, here's the thing, folks. I made a video just to tell y'all the premise of it. It's a video that's like, it's titled "The Tale of Vladimir Putin," and it has like Putin speaking at the beginning of it. It looks serious, but then when the video starts, it starts listing every single failure that Putin's ever caused inside of Russia and showing it in a real like unflattering light to Vladimir Putin. I'm gonna save the rest of it. Y'all can see it when it actually gets shown tomorrow. I gotta find music for it though. I used an old Soviet track to go with it. It's like a super depressing Soviet track. It's called like Something in the Night. I can't remember the exact name of it. It's a really popular meme song, but the problem is though, is it's copyrighted, and I didn't find that out until after I made the video, and I was like, oh dang, it's actually copyrighted. I didn't see YouTube detecting a copyright issue, but we don't want to play with that. We're gonna get some proper music to put into it that's actually copyright free, and then show it tomorrow because I think it's gonna be pretty good. We're gonna try to add that to the intro just for tomorrow itself as an interesting thing. I guess that can be part of the 500,000 subscriber celebration. Is that video right there? I think you're gonna like it.
I think you will also quite like it as well, me personally. But with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to none other than, also someone said Russian copyright shouldn't count. And the thing is though, like, I believe it or not, you can actually do a rendition of a, what's called a cover, a musical cover of certain pieces of music. And that cover can be done by Americans. So Americans can hold the copyright to a Russian song if they did a cover of it in America. So that's the weird thing. Like copyright gets super complicated, super tricky. There's literally lawyers that specialize in copyright law, and it gets complicated. The best thing to do with copyright is to err on the strong side of caution, so that way you don't get in legal trouble. That's the best way to handle it, and that's the way we do it, just to avoid any trouble. So that's the personal way that I would handle it. But anyways, jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Danny B. And Danny puts in a 50, and it's good to see you, good sir, and thank you very much for that support. He said, good evening, Enforcers, Chef Danny here, and congratulations on the 503,000 subs, and I'm so happy to be a part of the community and LLT LSA.
And long live the Leaf Spring Army, and a huge thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. It's wonderful to have you here tonight, Chef of the LSA, Danny B. And I gotta say that it's a wonderful thing to know that so many people have been celebrating 500,000 subscribers with us today. You know, it was crazy, folks. I have to say this because this is something that sounds outlandish. Y'all won't believe it, but it really did happen, and Matthew was there as a witness. We were hanging out near to some railroad tracks today, watching the trains pass by while the video was blowing up. And we were like, man, that thing's going to be about to hit 500,000. And right after it hit 500,000, a Norfolk Southern SD60E passed us by, and it did a crazy horn salute. Like, it was like, bum, 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 and then the bell went off, ding, ding, and then it turned off. And we were like, oh my God. We were like, that is crazy. So it turns out it's actually a friend of mine. I know him, and he's an engineer on the Norfolk Southern, and he did that not knowing that we had hit 500,000. But he did it right in time for us to hit 500,000 subscribers exactly. So we were like, "That's really cool." It's kind of like a salute to 500,000. So that was pretty cool. Honestly, I thought that was the neatest thing. Honestly, that's the coolest thing I ever seen watching a train. But anyways, a big thing.
Honestly, it was cool, but it scared the living hell out of me because that train horns are loud as hell, and my ears work really good. Very like sensitive ears on Enforcer Matt. So when the train horn goes off, it's like hearing like a gunshot going off or something like that, like a continuous gunshot. Like the level of sound that thing puts off, that was loud as hell. I was like, what the hell is going on? I thought like a train wreck was happening or something. I thought somebody's about to smash something. Like I looked up and I was like, oh, it's just like the little celebration for the train over there. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And Matthew was scared for a second. Honestly, it caught me off guard because it already crossed the crossing and it was going back over the crossing, like, you know, on the rear end of the train, pretty much pushing back. And so I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I immediately hit me. I was like, wait a minute, that's an SD60E, and I know a guy who actually runs those, like that specific type of engine. So then I was like I asked around. I was like, is that him? And it turned out to be him. I was like, no way. I was like, that's freaking crazy. That was cool. That was super cool. And so honestly, folks, my ears are kind of a little deafened. I've been around enough guns being shot with hardly any hearing protection on. I think it's done me a little bit of damage in my hearing canals, my ear canals. So I don't really hear as well. So it doesn't really bother me much at all. I can pretty much listen to them without my ears being covered whatsoever, and it sounds fine to me. But Matthew tells me that they are extremely loud, which tells me I might have some hearing damage of some sort. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next support here goes to Wealthy Demon. And once again, I hope we can convert you to Wealthy Angel, by the way. But thank you very much for that $50 support right there. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And they said, congratulations on 500,000. Definitely deserved. And I would like to ask your opinion on something. If the war does kick off, would the U.S. conduct a two-front war against Russia from both the European front and Pacific and Asian front from Alaska?
We will most likely focus all of our efforts inside of Europe, at least for the ground war, but we would conduct a naval blockade of the Russians here in the east. It's just that there's not really a lot of potential for ground invasions in the east to really make it anywhere, so we will probably not conduct a lot of actions here in the east. Most of it will be in the west. But I do thank you for the support, and also asking a great question, and thank you for the congrats on 500,000 subscribers. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to KG. And thank you very much, KG, for that $50 support. We do appreciate that very, very much. And KG said, if Russia breaches U.S. airspace, whether it be Alaska or the continental United States, should the U.S. take them down? For example, not zones, but actual populated territory.
Yes, we should take them down under any circumstance. If a Russian aircraft enters their airspace and it was not permitted, it should be shot down without further notice. And the pilots should be taken as prisoners once they fall to the ground, if they make it there. And we should hold them in exchange for some sort of demands that we will issue to the Russians that they'll have to meet. And those will be very high demands, so we'll pretty much hold those pilots indefinitely as prisoners. That's what I would do. But a big thanks to you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Ryguy SR, who puts in a 40. And thank you, Ryguy, as well. He said, congrats on the continued success and cheers to the next 500K. And it's been great to be a part of the community. And you guys' hard work are paying off. And take one from the chat and LLT, LSA.
And long live the Lee Spring Army. And thank you for the kind words. And we're going onwards and upwards from here. It's crazy, folks, because we hit 500,000 today. And I was actually kidding around with Matthew. I was like, we never hit like any hundreds of thousands of subscribers even. We always end up going over on the very same day that we hit it, and we did today. We got almost all the way up at this point to 504,000 subscribers. So I was like, dang it, we didn't get to see the round 500 for that long at all. It was like maybe an hour, and then we were at 501 already. But still, I gotta say, a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running, and I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a $21 support from Mike D. And thank you very much, Mike. He said, hypothesis, the meeting of generals might be a purge. Let's see here. I don't know. I don't know about reading that other part right there. But Mike, I honestly... I don't know. I don't know. I think that the meeting that's been called by the Department of Defense is simply to get the military leadership together to discuss potential possible war plans, maybe against Russia if it comes down to defensive measures. I think that's what it is, but, I think that's what it is. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm going to withhold a lot of my comments on that. I would hope that it's about our adversaries overseas, but if it was that, that's going to be a little interesting and incredibly concerning, but we'll just leave it at that. But a big thanks to you once again for support. I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Gerald Everett, who puts in a $21 support, and thank you very much, Gerald, for that support as well. He said, 4/28 of 1945, the U.S. Navy used the first fire-and-forget drone, the Bat, and it sank a Japanese patrol boat. Later, it sank another patrol boat and damaged a larger ship and destroyed a fuel storage facility, radar-controlled.
Let's see here. Guided bomb. Yes, the ASM-N-2 Bat. There it is. It's kind of like the Fritz X. The guided bomb that the Germans had in World War II. Right here. Ours came into service in 1945. The German Fritz X was in service in 1943 to 1944. So they actually had one a little bit before us. But they're both in the similar principle. They're guided bombs. You drop them from a really high altitude, and using a wire connected to the aircraft and remote controlling them that way, you can actually change their flight path while they're falling, and pretty much have them glide a little bit further to the left, right, up, or down to be able to hit onto their target, which is a pretty cool sort of a system. And I got to thank you for support and sharing that with us, because this is a really cool bomb, a lot like the Fritz X. But a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, and thank you very much, Sarge, for that $20 support, and we do appreciate that very, very much. He said, "We did it, LSA. 500,000 subs, and well done, y'all. Y'all deserve everything that you worked so hard for, and I'm proud of you both." And thank you very much, Sarge, for the kind words. He said, "I'm also proud to be your fan, and most of all, your friend. And LSA, hit the like button. That's an order."
Hey, and hit the like button, folks. That is an order. And I got to say, a big thanks to you for the support and being a friend. And I also got to say, it's great to have had you here on this journey, and it's good to know that you're still here with us to this day. So I got to thank you massively once again for support. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And also, I saw someone say, someone asked, "Do you honestly feel safe with this guy at the helm if World War III breaks out?" Look, folks. Look, we don't get to really control any of that stuff. Like, I know that a lot of people like to say that sort of thing, like, "Can you believe that guy has the nuclear codes?" or, something like that, or "Should he be in charge?" Like, look, if World War III broke out, and, I'm just going to be honest with y'all, if World War III broke out and Biden was president, I would be still as concerned as I would be right now. I mean, it's not really like this is the peak of leadership that we're seeing these days. It's across the board. So I would generally say we really don't have a choice on top of that. I mean, if World War III had broken out while he was in office, it was going to happen. I mean, look at this right now. I mean, this current president right now has gone out of his way to the point that I thought it was ridiculous to avoid even confronting the Russians on anything at all, and the Russians still forced us into a corner to where we had to respond to it anyway. So it was going to happen no matter what. It doesn't really matter if he was in charge or if someone else was in charge. It was going to happen. So we just kind of have to sit here and go, whatever happens, we just have to hope that it turns out well, and just root for the country. It's like, and also that's honestly the worst time to start asking that question. It's like, what are we going to do in the middle of this war? Go, damn, sure is a terrible thing that we're all in the Third World War, but that's why you need to vote blue or red or something. It's like, I think we have bigger priorities at that point than figuring out who we're voting for in the next election. We might need to fight this before we think about that. So I hope
we need stability. Like, we really need stability, not just because we're going into a war, but just because the American people can only take so much chaos. Like, people have a limit to the chaos they can take, and then they're like, okay, we need to calm the hell down and stop all this chaos. Like, we just need, people just want to wake up every day because everybody pays their taxes. People just want to wake up every day and know the government is being the good old boring government that we've always known them to be. They're running the administrative agencies and the executive branch calmly as possible, and holding people accountable that need to be held accountable in those positions. And the government runs as boringly as possible, and everything stays good to go. And it has some slight changes here and there to make things more optimized to the American people's liking. Nobody wants constant chaos. Nobody wants that. The people that think they want that, they don't know what they're asking for until they get the chaos they want, and then they realize, oh shit, that's actually, I don't like that. But especially in a wartime setting, you need a lot of stability because people are already on edge because they're obviously about to go to war. And you don't need chaos happening on a domestic political front. So, calm is what they need right now, but it seems like calm is the last thing we got.
And I also see some people saying, generally in agreement with that, and some people disagreeing. But folks, the truth is that you don't you don't really get to have your cake and eat it. Like, you don't get to have the greatest administration on the planet and then also have World War III happen right then and there. You don't really get that opportunity every single time. That's just not what you get. You just have to deal with the situation as it is, and you just have to hope that the people who were elected make the right calls. And if they don't, you start to change that in your next votes if you didn't like what happened. But for now, we just have to deal with the cards we're dealt with, and we have the guy we have, and so we just kind of gotta root our dog on in the pit. That's kind of the way that it works. We don't really get much more of a say in it at this point. So with that,
people better root for the home team because whoever's in charge when this thing breaks out, that's who's going to be in charge during the most of the course of it, or at least a huge portion of it. So, regardless of how you feel, and everybody's got their own personal feelings, and me included, you got to root for the home team because that's who's going to either make or break it for this country is their leadership. So hopefully, people that are advising, people that are there in the cabinet, hopefully people speak up and have a spine and, say what's on their minds. That way all the opinions can be heard at the exact same time. And maybe if we actually enter a world war scenario, maybe even some of these hard-headed people that are extremely stubborn and don't want to listen to reason, maybe they'll soften up a little bit and actually start listening to people when they get really scared that a war is actually on our doorstep. That's my hope. That's pretty much all the hope I'm holding on to at the moment, that people will get their act together in our government. So hopefully that's the case.
I would hope so. Hopefully some of those folks are listening, because that's a very important lesson that will get us in a great position for war, is that there has to be stability on the home front to deal with what's going on over there. And considering that I think they're understanding that this is now unavoidable, they might want to start working towards that direction and getting everyone on the same page. So with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one here is going to go to none other than Captain Banana Bread, who puts in the 20. And thank you very much, Captain, for that support. Excuse me, by the way. And they said, congratulations on the well-deserved 500,000. And you both do a phenomenal job keeping us all informed with the history unfolding right before our eyes. And thank you.
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words and support. We do a great job. We do quite a great one. Enforcer Matt did an insanely good job today with that video. Have you all seen that video? That thing is up to 430,000 views. I actually think, Matthew, that thing might end up becoming one of the few. Actually, I think it may. Like, it's kind of like leveling out right now, but I think it may end up becoming the next 500,000 view video that we have. We have only made 7 videos. 6 actually in this channel's history that have been 500,000 views or larger. This one actually might end up becoming the 7th one that we've ever made that's that big. So really cool stuff, actually, and it was a really damn good video. But we do quite a good job. We do quite a good job together as a team building this thing together. We've been doing that for 3.5 years. And so hopefully we'll be able to keep doing that well into the future and get this thing on up to 1 million. But a big thanks to you once again for your support. I hope that addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Zaldibus Nona. And thank you for putting in that 20, by the way. We do appreciate that. They said, the meeting at the Marine base will probably be a kiss the ring moment. I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, you wouldn't get all these people together to kiss the ring. Also, I would tend to have some doubts that it's some type of restructuring. Why would you literally recall your top U.S. military leadership worldwide to Virginia to sit there and say, okay, you're fired because you suck. You're fired because you're dumb. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you simply say, send out like a cable and simply say, okay, so-and-so, General so-and-so, you're fired. You're done. Like, we don't need a meeting for that. They simply send a cable and they fire them. So, I don't know why they'd want to bring them back to Virginia to do that, unless they're wanting like some type of televised clown show or something. I don't think that's the case, though. But Enforcer, what say you?
You never know. But one thing I would have to say, though, is that would be absolutely bizarre. I mean, I would have to say, folks, that as far as that happening, I'm just going to say this up front. That is going to be the most harebrained, insano thing. That's like Saddam level, if that happened. Like, that's the American equivalent of the Saddam level purge, where he's like, if I call your name, stand up and walk outside. If that happened, that would be absolutely insane. I'm doubting that would happen. Like, it's so insane, it's just out of, like, at least for me, out of the realm of possibility for that even to happen. I know a lot of people are saying that, but that sort of a thing would be absolutely crazy. I don't even think anyone could really justify that. Like, why in the world even bring them all together? You can quite truly just send them a telegram from the office of the president telling them that they're dismissed and they're to be replaced by so-and-so. You don't even have to have them all gather together. Gathering them together would just be to send a message to the rest of them that there are examples being made and to follow along. That sort of thing would actually be quite crazy. Like, at that point, you really couldn't argue that it's not authoritarian. Like, if for some people who are making that argument, that would be quite truly like at the level of like Stalin or Hitler or Saddam or anyone else who did that, to where they had to make a public display of examples made and then tell everyone that'll happen to you and have them all there to see it. Like, I just honestly, I think that's
not happening.
Yeah, I don't think that's really going to happen. The chances, like, if that happens, I'm going to be blown away, but I'm thinking that it's such a small chance, I don't even think it can happen. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So our next super chat here is going to go to, let me restructure my spreadsheet here. Restructure the spreadsheet. Ruh-roh. Let's see here. This next super chat.
Like Zoink Scoop, I think the spreadsheet's messed up. Ruh-roh, Raggy. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
And our next super chats go to Andy L and Glock Glock, who's their LOC, who each put in a $20 support. And thank you both Andy and Mr. Glock for that support, and we do appreciate that very much. And I do not see comments attached, but of course, it's that support that keeps this channel running, and we appreciate you both very, very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank the both of y'all greatly. Y'all didn't throw in support, but y'all did throw in support, but not a comment. And we are massively appreciative of that, and we thank y'all greatly for helping this thing to keep rolling. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a 20 from Dunkel X. And Dunkel said, congratulations on 500K. LSA is super proud of you too. And my question is, what is the over-under on NATO action by the end of the week? And I would take the under in LSA.
I thank you for the support, and I would have to say that I would also be on the under as well. I'm still doubting that we'll be pushing ourselves to that point. I think that we're still going to try and hold back as much as we can. But a big thanks to you for support, and thank you for the kind words. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Nikki, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much for that support, by the way. We appreciate that. They said, a big graps, boys, and successful earned, and take one from the chat.
Hey, and thank you so much for supporting and enjoying what we do. And thank you for supporting it. And we will make sure to take one from the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
And the one from the chat is going to go to James Margolis, who said, what do you think about a draft if we go to war?
I think in this sort of a scale of a war, it most likely would be necessary. It's not really whether I like it or not. It's more so what's necessary for the nation. And in this sort of a situation, I think it is necessary. But a big thanks to you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Zyper Sniper 1, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Zyper, for that support as well. He said, coffee fund for the Enforcers, and congrats on 500,000 subs. And if the war starts and end in a Western win, are Ukraine going to get into NATO then? And are NATO going to occupy Belarus and make it into a NATO ally and then isolate Russia for good?
I don't think we would pretty much de-Russify Belarus, but we certainly would bring Ukraine into NATO. That would be a guarantee. But that also is dependent on how close to nuclear war we get, because we could also back off of that as well and pretty much create a status quo antebellum treaty where everything goes back to the way it was before the war. So I hope that addresses that the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, Barbara Rutledge brought up something interesting. She said, why does John Q. public, meaning the American public, need to know about this meeting with the U.S. top military leadership? That doesn't sound safe. I found that interesting myself. Also, if y'all recall, this might be the first test of how this administration handles this issue. The Pentagon, if I have this story correct, the Pentagon just said the other day that journalists can't release any information about DoD information at all, even if it's unclassified, without prior DoD approval or Department of War, whatever you want to call it. So it's like, did the journal that put that out, that story right there, did they get prior approval before they put that out? Me personally, I don't agree with that whole thing, but that's the new rule that's currently in effect. So I wonder if the current administration is going to try to go after that journal for putting that out, because I don't know if they got authorization or not. That's currently an unknown.
Yeah, that is an interesting point, honestly. But with that, also, Matthew, how many super chats do we have left?
We have about 60.
Oh, we need to pick up the pace even more. Like, dang. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Matthew Schmidt, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Matthew, for that support. They said, thanks for all your hard work and professionalism, guys.
Hey, and thank you for enjoying our hard work and our professionalism and supporting it. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jensen Larimore, who puts in a 20. And Jensen said, I started watching, I think, in 2023, and you guys are a part of my everyday since then, and thank you for the integrity and independence and LSA.
Hey, thank you so much for the support. And I got to thank you for the kind words and being with us for years now, and hopefully years more from here. So a huge thanks to you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, someone said they never did a FOIA request. I have actually done several FOIA requests, actually. I actually did that for a couple different things. I did it when I was working with Andrew on his campaign back in the day, because I needed a little bit of a document. And also, I did it on something else as well. I never used the document that I got from the government, but I did get the records, though. I also used FOIA in a different situation as well when we were being harassed by a certain individual here on YouTube. So with that, we're moving on to our next one, which goes to Wisdom, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Wisdom, for that $20 support. He said, the best channel on YouTube. And forget Russia for a hot second. Are you guys single? Oh no, I'm married to this YouTube thing right here. I tell you what, totally married to this YouTube thing right here. It's demanding. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for supporting and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Paul Weekly, who puts in the 20. And thank you very much, Paul, as well, for that support. He said, congrats on your 503,000 plus subscribers.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the congrats on 500,000 subscribers, and hopefully further on from here. And so a huge thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Victor Nakorsky, who puts in the 20. And thank you very much, Victor, for that support. And he said, I sat next to a Polish guy on my train from Warsaw to Vilnius 3 days ago, and we went through the Suwalki Gap. This guy knew about the Enforcer channel and really liked it, and heading to Riga, Latvia on Sunday.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually. That's really neat. And I gotta say, a big thanks to you for the support, and that's really cool to hear that folks know about the Enforcer channel, even passing through the Suwalki Gap, which is one of the biggest things that we talk about in the NATO Alliance. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a $15 support from Live Laugh Toaster Bath. And thank you very much for that support, by the way. They said, good evening, Enforcers and LSA, and congrats on the 500,000 subs. So happy to have seen the channel grown so much and so quickly. And please take one from the chat and LLT LSA.
And thank you so much for the support and the kind words, because we love to know that folks like you enjoy this channel and help it to keep on running. And I got to say that it is folks like you who put in those sorts of kind words that help us to make this thing possible and keep it rolling every day. So a massive thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a 15 from Bob Anon. And Bob said, also, by the way, let me get rid of this bot real quick. There we go. Got rid of the bot. But thank you very much, Bob, for that 15. He said, do you think the Allies are now denying and delaying because time is no longer on Russia's side, and every delay to war brings them closer to internal collapse? And keep up the great work, guys, and LLT, LSA.
I think that may be a part of it, but also at the same time, they're hesitant because they don't really know what a full outbreak with war with Russia will really bring. But a big thanks to you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Plazoth, who puts in a 12. He said, congrats.
And I thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the congratulations, because it is folks like you who make this thing possible. And so with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jake Robinson, and Jake puts in a 10. He said, here's for a Tim Hortons coffee on me. LSA, Canada says hello. Now, sadly, Jake, we don't have a Tim Hortons anywhere around here. The only coffee houses we got is we have a Starbucks, we have a place called Scooter's Coffee, and we have... that's it, actually. I think that is actually it. But, Enforcer, what say you?
We have a Starbucks, we have a Scooter, that's about it. That's about it that I can know of. But still, I hope that addresses that somewhat well. We don't have a lot of coffee, right? But if we get a Tim Hortons, which hopefully we will when we move the HQ to Salt Lake City, we will get one on you. So a huge thanks to you once again for the kind words and the support. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to SC Deer Girl, who puts in a 10. And she said, I hear the choppers coming. They're flying overhead.
Oh, dang, that's interesting to hear, and I got to thank you for the support and sharing that with us. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to a Magic, who puts in a 10. And they said, well, I guess it's almost time for the true test of the West. Good game, lads, and God bless you all.
And thank you so much for the support, and it was a good game indeed. Good game. You know, if we beat the Russians in a war, I'm going to put GG on that thing at the end. Like, that's what I'm going to do. Like, honestly.
Yo, chat, this is crazy, chat. World War III starting. This is crazy, chat.
Yo, chat, on God, chat, we took the Kremlin, chat. Like, yo, we're raising the U.S. flag on top of the Kremlin, chat. On God, chat, this is crazy, chat. On God, the Germans, they're out there. The Germans are back in Kursk, chat. On God, chat, it's crazy, chat. But honestly, I'll be straight up with y'all. I would put a GG on that thing if we end up winning it against the Russians, or something like you suck, but GG though, like a little bit of a rage bait sort of a thing on them. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And I guarantee you those streamers that you're talking about, like the ones talking about, oh, yo, chat, yo, look, chat, World War III starting, chat, look. They're going to be doing that, I guarantee you. Like, nobody's going to be able to avoid, like, talking about it because obviously World War III starting, a war between Russia and NATO is going to be something that captures everybody's attention, no matter what the hell they cover. So I guarantee you, you're going to be seeing brain rot central when it comes to like, World War III coverage.
Dude,
it's going to be out there.
There's going to be a guy out there, and his MRAP's going to get hit by an ATGM. He's going to hop out. Oh God, chat, this is crazy, chat. They're hacking, chat. Aimbot, chat. Like, report him, chat. Oh God, chat. Like, man, honestly. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Kieran Whitfield, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Kieran, for that support. They said, that voice makes me laugh so hard. It makes me laugh so hard. They said, sir, can you laugh a little bit less? Could you smile some more? They said, what makes you happy? Are you on the up and up? And they said, somewhat, sometimes. It depends on if good is bad, bad is good. That's what they say. That's what they tell me. Don't take it. But tell us more.
Turn off the lights. Like, turn off the lights. We don't want to see. Honestly, man, if folks, if I'm in the infantry and they give us nods and we're outside of a Russian building like an HQ, we're about to, like, go in there and clear it, I'm going to sit there and do it in that voice. I'm going to go, hey, Private Vasquez, turn off the lights. Like, turn off the lights. We're going in. Throw in a flashbang. We're going straight in. We're not going to hold any quarters. I don't know why. I'm more a dollar bill kind of a guy, not quarters. People always talk about those quarters, and they go, wow, look at those quarters. They're round and silvery looking, but they're made of zinc. I heard that the brainworm guy said that zinc is good for you. Eat some quarters. I'm not recommending that. Like, seriously, that's a joke. Do not do that. That's stupid. But
that's a joke.
That's a prank. That's a joke. But me personally, I've been known to eat a quarter of Alfredo every once in a while. Not a quarter like a coin, but a quarter of Alfredo. It's a wonderful, delicious dish. I'd sit there and go, wow, look at this Alfredo. And people would go, sir, there's never been a better cooked Alfredo. And it's just the finest Alfredo, the greatest Alfredo. You ought to sign an executive order on that Alfredo. You really eat that thing. It's delicious. It's great. But still, a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one also goes to James Margiolis, and thank you very much, James, for that $10 support. He said, thank you guys for doing the updates and hard work every day.
And thank you for enjoying our hard work and updates every day and supporting it so that way we can keep doing it. So a huge thanks to you once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And a big shout out to Drew Snyder, who put in 10. He said, I haven't seen anything in terms of de-escalation as we saw in Iran versus Israel or in China's offense toward Taiwan and the South China Sea. Only escalation like this will probably lead to World War III.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing's really de-escalating anymore. It's endlessly escalating. And it's an interesting and unfortunate time that we're having to deal with all of these at the same time. But a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Renegade Preppers UK, who puts in a 10. They said one thing that will back up the gathering on Flight Radar 24 is a rivet joint is currently mapping it out from the line it's drawn with its flight path. Also, congrats on 502,000 subscribers, guys, and LSA.
Hey, and long live the Lee Spring Army, and that's now 503,700 subscribers. What a growth! And a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running, because it is folks like you who have helped to make this thing possible and helps us to keep it possible. And I would have to agree with you about the RC-135V rivet joint. And so a big thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 from Covert Mist Zero, who said, we keep hearing about Denmark, Poland, and Lithuania, but what's happening at the Norwegian-Russian border, and what about the Finnish-Russian border?
Not really a lot's happening in the Norwegian-Russian border. It's a fairly short one. But on the Finnish-Russian border, there has been some military buildups that the Russians have conducted over the prior year, and they're still around there right now from what we know. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. A big thanks to you for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one actually goes to Duncan VR. And I did see your super chat, Duncan. And thank you very much for that $25 support. And then Duncan said, Baba woof quack. I was out and I missed a show. And you were out where, Duncan? Where were you? Tell me. He said, can I get some enforcer voice impersonations? oh man, I'm telling you, no respect out here. They got no respect. They keep my name out of your mouth. Stop it. You're just trying to tear me down. That's all you're doing. Stop it. And I've had enough. Thank you, Duncan, for caring. Where were you today? I assume you were getting multivitamins. I would assume, but and Forrest, tell us more.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. Oh man, you know, I sit here and run a channel for 4 years. Oh man, and then we finally get 500,000. Oh man, where have you all been? Oh man, I'm telling you, people hate me. Oh, they really do. Oh man, they hate me real bad. Oh man, I'm telling you. Just the other day, I sat there and I went down to the railroad tracks to watch a train run by, and someone said they saw my mother come by an hour earlier. Oh man, I'm telling you. Oh man, people sit there and they shit on me. Oh man, they sit there and take shots at me. Oh man, and they used to really take shots at me. Oh man, one time I tried to join the army. Oh man, they used me for target practice. Oh man, I'm telling you. Oh man, the outrageousness of it all. It's ridiculous, really ridiculous. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's terrible being me. It's terrible being me. I get no respect around here. Hey, you know something? I went to my doctor the other day, Dr. Vinny Van Botch. Oh man, I walked up to him. I said, hey doctor, my legs are swelling. He said, well, why don't you get some exercise? Oh man, I'm telling you. He sat there and said it was water weight. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's ridiculous stuff, really.
That actually sounds like it could be an iron deficiency. That's something you wouldn't have if you drank your kombucha. If you'd have some of that wonderful tasting drink, you'd probably not have that swelling that you're talking about. But I remember back in the day when I used to go out to the farm. I used to go out there, and I remember I saw these deer, these succulent deer, plump. But they were out there at the farm, and I said, how do you catch those? Did you take your Cadillac and smash?
Oh man, I'm telling you,
I don't know where to go with that one. I gotta stop.
Oh man, this guy's lost it. Oh man, just like my doctor. Oh man, I went to the doctor the other day. I said, hey, don't you care for my health? Can't you help me out here? He gave me a Tylenol. Oh man, I'm telling you. Oh man, no respect. But anyways, I hope that does just the best I can. A huge thanks to you for the support, Duncan VR, and I hope you enjoyed the voice. By the way, if y'all don't know who that was supposed to be the now past comedian, has been for a couple of decades, Rodney Dangerfield. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next one here goes to Curtis Clifford. And thank you very much, Curtis, for that $10 support. He said, keep up the good work, and I watch you guys almost every night, and thank you.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the kind words and helping this thing to keep on running. So with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Tagveri, who puts in a 10. And they said, shots on me, and LLC. And actually, we don't drink, actually. I don't drink. I've never really cared for the stuff. I've never really done that tobacco, that alcohol, or nothing like that. But thank you very much for that. And Enforcer, what say you?
You know, outside of ownership of firearms, we have no dealings with the ATF normally, because we don't really partake in the alcohol, the tobacco, but we do partake in some firearms from time to time. But still, a big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep running, because it is folks like you who help us to make this thing possible and keep it rolling. So a massive thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Michael Mervahill, who puts in a 10. He said, is it time for a nice blockade of Russia yet?
It's getting there. It's getting close. So I hope that does address that well. Big thanks to you once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 for Mr. Funnybones. And he said, thank you for the outstanding coverage and keep up the excellent work.
And thank you for enjoying our coverage, and we will keep up the great work. And so a massive thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Bliskin. Thank you very much, Bliskin, for that $10 support, and we appreciate it very much in helping to keep this whole operation going all day. Bliskin said, I think they told those old motocross soldiers that they're going back to Afghanistan, and to get them out of bed.
Oh man, I can't even understand this guy. Oh man, I get no respect around here. I'd sit here and try and listen to a question, and then this guy starts talking. I'm not talking out of turn now. Don't get me mistaken. Oh man. Don't hurt me, Mike. I don't want to get hurt here. Oh man. I'm sitting here trying to get it.
Go now.
Okay, I'll go. I don't want any trouble here. Oh man, I'm telling you. I get no respect around here. I just try and sit here and get a question, and this guy starts threatening to beat my ass. Oh man, I'm telling you. But anyways, what was the real question, Randy? I couldn't understand it there, actually.
Only time I speak to reporters.
I can't do that one. But Bliskin said, I think I think those old motocross soldiers, they are back in Afghanistan to get them out of bed.
You know, actually, they might be. Yeah, that's actually deep. I like that. But a big thanks to you once again for support. I hope that is addressed out well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Doug Halstead, who puts in a 10. And he said, my sincerest congrats, guys, and a proud day for the LSA, and take a question from a new member, please.
And we will make sure to take a question from the new member. But big thanks to you for the support and helping this thing to keep rolling. You know, folks, I just realized they said we'll take one from the new member. Like, there's only one. but anyways, we will take one from the new member. So, Matthew, what do we got?
So I don't know if they're a new member, but Huckleberry put in a question, and they said, I hate to say it, but I think Putin has something up his sleeve. How's he going to lose against Ukraine but pick a fight with NATO?
Oh, he's got nothing up his sleeve. This is a desperate last-ditch
Nukes.
attempt. Oh, yeah, that's really all he has up his sleeve, but it's nothing special, you know, that we already didn't know about. So this is really a desperate last-ditch attempt to really force a nuclear confrontation with the West to get us to back off entirely or face utter destruction. That's what this is. So a big thanks to you for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, by the way, I see people saying, oh, I love the voices. Honestly, like during the question segment, it's a free for all. Like if you're new, like during the question segment, that's our chance to talk to everybody in the audience and things like that. That's the Q&A segment. So we've tried to tone down the voices during the news segment because we want to keep that serious because obviously we're discussing serious topics. But during the question segment, though, it's a free for all. So it's part of the thing. But anyways, moving into our next one here, this one goes to Nick Knack, who puts in a 10. They said, I've been watching since the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk. Love the information y'all have and been giving it out to any listening, and keep up the fantastic work and congrats on 500K.
Hey, and thank you for the kind words, and thank you for watching us for so long. That was a while ago, actually. But I got to thank you massively for enjoying this channel and supporting it, because folks like you help to make this channel possible and help the Lee Spring Army to keep growing and reaching more people. So a huge thanks to you once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Zyper Sniper 1. Excuse me, goodness. I don't know what's got me coughing, but Zyper Sniper 1 put in a 200 NOK, Norwegian kroner. And thank you very much, Zyper. He said, World War III ammo fund for the enforcers, and question to the chat, please.
And thank you so much for the support, Zyper Sniper. We will use that sparingly. But still, a big thanks to you once again for support. We will make sure to take a question from the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to AF Kaplan, who said, have you heard any more developments regarding Denmark and Article 4?
Oh, I haven't heard about that yet. They did invoke it, and they're going to be consulting about it, but that's all we've heard because they haven't had the meeting yet. But a big
Denmark?
Yes.
Are you sure Denmark? I thought it was Lithuania and Poland did.
I'm pretty sure that Denmark has. It's not over the Russians. It's just to consult about the drone threat, if I remember correctly.
Oh no, I don't think so. I think that's the thing. They're probably going to invoke Article 4, but that hadn't happened yet.
Oh, man. I get no respect around here. I try and talk about Article 4, and this guy pulls out the articles of the law on me. Oh, man, I'm telling you. I get no respect around here. I sat there and tried to talk about Denmark. They gave me a cream cheese Danish. Oh, man, I'm telling you. You know, I sat there and went swimming around Iceland recently. Oh, man. You know, I ended the cod wars. The cod ran away from me. Oh, man, I must have stunk or something. I don't really know. Maybe I smelled like fish. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, man. You know, I went to the United Kingdom. Oh, man, they hated me so much there. I ended up splitting the kingdom. Now it's called the separate kingdom. Oh, man, I'm telling you. You know, I went to Poland. They got rid of all the Poles. They just call it and. You know, oh, man. And what? I don't know. Oh, man, I'm telling you. You know, I went to Belarus. They got rid of Bella. Bella ran away. Now it's just called Rus. Oh, man, I'm telling you. People hate me in Europe. They really do. Oh, man. I travel around and I turn the whole place upside down. Oh, man, I'm telling you. You know, and another thing. I went to Australia, the land down under. You know, it's supposed to be upside down. Oh, man. They flipped right side up to get rid of me. Oh, man, I'm telling you. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous around here, doctor. It's ridiculous. Oh, man, you know, they told me to smoke a cigarette a day to stay healthy. Oh, man, my lungs have turned like walnuts.
With that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so our next super chat here is going to go to none other than CIA Sniper.
Oh.
Thanks for that $10 support right there. They said, do you guys think that the Department of War calling an unprecedented meeting of all the U.S. military commanders around the world is to discuss a plan and do a SOP to do the comments made by Soliev on the 20-minute vid? And I assure you, they're not doing anything because Soliev said something. I guarantee you that. That's the propagandist fellow that we call the devil, who shows up on Russian state media. Soliev is the equivalent of Medvedev, in my opinion. Nobody really cares what he says because he's kind of a little bit loony. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree with Matthew on that. No one listens to the devil. So, I would just leave it at that. But the big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep running. And also, man, how many super chats do we have left?
About 60.
60?
60. You heard right.
How
60.
How have we been covering so many? And we were at 60 like 20 ago, and now we're still at 60.
We've added some to it. We've added and multiplied and mathematics.
All right, folks, we're going to have to cut down all of the extra chit-chat, like both of us are. We're just going to have to start knocking these things out, because if we do not, we're going to be here until 5 hours from now, probably. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here is a $10 support from Ahmed. And thank you very much, Ahmed, for that $10 support. He said, keep up the great work. Harvard grad 2019 in history and culture of Muslim civilizations in the department. And let me know if you guys need any help in Arabic or info on the region. And thanks again.
Thank you so much for the kind words and the support, and also thank you for the help for some info. We actually might take you up on that here in the future. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Silence, who puts in a 10. And they said, congrats on 503,000 from an Iran bombing sub. Thanks for all the work. And when's the next merch drop? And also, what are the odds of China backing Russia to keep a conflict with NATO going for an extended time?
And I thank you for the support. The chances of China supporting Russia is really high, because they currently are right now, and they'll keep doing that into the future. And also, the next merch drop is going to be after we move the HQ to Salt Lake City, so probably sometime next year. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 from Jason Carney. And Jason said, for the Brain Worms Fund.
But still, a huge thanks to you for the support. And thank you for the Brainworms Fund. We greatly appreciate that. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Live, Laugh, Toaster, Bath, who puts in an 8. They said, why is everyone stressing about Tylenol? And it's heaps safer than it was in 1982. Eek. LLT LSA. Also, I use Tylenol. Like, I personally use it. I don't see a problem with it. It sounds like I don't take my medical advice from a politician. I'm just saying. But Enforcer, what say you?
Oh man, but honestly, I wouldn't either. Taking medical advice from politicians is like taking legal advice from felons. Like
From a pharmacist.
Yeah,
No,
well, that doesn't really work. Like that doesn't really work. But beyond that, I hope that does address that well. Big thanks to you once again. We are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Peter Florence, who puts in a 6. And they said, LSA.
Hey, and long live Spring Army. You big thanks to you so much once again. We are on to the next one.
And we have a 6 from Naomi Mide. And they said, it would be so cool if everyone just sent $1. And that's what they said, by the way.
Oh.
And thank you very much, Naomi Mide, for that support.
I thank you so much for the support. I hope that everybody doesn't, to be honest, because we are going to be here forever. We're already going to be here forever tonight. Honestly, folks, I think we could probably do a super chat cutoff at this point, and we would be A-okay. But I do thank you for the kind words and the thought. That's a really nice thought. And a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here is going to go to none other than Timothy Hill, who puts in a 5. And thank you, Timothy, for that support. He said, if war breaks out, should the EU be left to handle Russia and keep the U.S. in reserve and standby to handle China if World War III starts?
I think we should go all in Europe if a war breaks out there. We generally have a major responsibility to help out Europe, because they're the largest and most profitable economic and military alliance that we have in the world. So it really, if we had to give up one or the other, it would be a lot more important to fight in Europe than it would be in East Asia, just to be entirely honest. Not that I would want to prioritize that. We could fight on two fronts, but if we had to pick one or the other, I would pick the Europeans, because they are massive economically and militarily. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Zachary Hensley, who said, keep up the good work and bringing us the current news and stay safe out there.
Hey, and thank you so much for supporting and enjoying our news, and we will stay safe out there, hopefully. And a big thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to none other than Jason Howard, who put in a 5. And he said, are high-ranking military personnel heading to Virginia to be close to the Weather Mountain and the Greenbrier bunkers in anticipation of nuclear exchange?
I would generally doubt it. I don't think so. I think they're going to have some sort of a large briefing of a sort, in a weird way. I don't know why, but I think that's what they're going to be doing. But a big thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And also a huge shout out to Sheba Flu, who put in a 1. And thank you very much for the support, by the way. And we also have a 5 from Kieran Whitfield, who said, say we're going to war, and we are going to be great.
We are going to war, and we're going to be fine. Like, just believe me. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And we are on to the next one.
And also, by the way, since we just put up the super chat cutoff, a big shout out to Tom Xman, who just threw in a $50 support. And thank you very much, Tom, for that extremely generous support right there. He said, "Here's my 50 for the 500th celebration. Thanks for all the hard work."
And thank you for enjoying our hard work, Tom Exman. And thank you for the celebration with the $50 super chat. Very kind of you. Very appreciative. And a massive thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to It's Court, who puts in a 5. They say, "Congratulations on 500,000 subs and keep trucking to 1 million."
And thank you so much for your support. And thank you for helping this channel to keep it running. Hopefully, we're on to 1 million soon. And so a huge thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next support is going to go to none other than Hoodoo, Texas, who puts in a 5. He said, "Breaking news." He said, and this is a joke, by the way, just to make this clear. He said, "Mass exodus from Poland by Polish citizens due to Enforcer Matt's poll." Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. Honestly, I think I was getting overwhelmed by the amount of chats coming in. I wrote, Poland is evacuating, or not Poland's evacuating, but I wrote Poland is telling the Polish citizens to leave Poland. So that's good because it's bad, and bad because it's good. But thank you very much, Hoodoo, for that support, and we appreciate that. We also have a 5 from Covert Mist 0. And thank you very much, Covert Mist, as well, for that support. We also have a 5 from Cowboy Up Texas, who said, "Thank you for what you guys do, and God bless you and your families."
And thank you so much. And thank you very much for the kind words of the support. And same to you as well. And a huge thanks to you once again for support. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Burning Wolf, who puts in a 5. He said, 503,000. That's crazy, and congrats.
And that is crazy. And it's even crazier because we're about to hit 504. It's really crazy. But a big thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Hoodoo, Texas, once again, who puts in the 5. He said, "More breaking news. Germany closing borders due to massive migration of panicked Poles." And that's a joke, by the way. He said, "Germany blames Enforcer Matt and is filing protest." I told Germany, "I'm sorry, Germany. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But thank you very much, Hoodoo, Texas, for that support. We do appreciate that. We also have a 5 from Blind Man X. And he put in a 5 and said, "Russia told NATO if NATO shoots down a plane, it's war. And what are they defining as a plane? An actual fighter jet, a strike craft, tanker, etc., or a drone, and LSA?"
From what we understand, anything with wings. Anything at all, drones or manned aircraft like the MiGs or the Sukhois. So I hope that does address that well. A big thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Levi Stratton, and thank you very much, Levi, as well, for also supporting the channel, and we do appreciate that very, very much. And we have a 5 as well from Quintero John, who puts in a 5. He said, "Greetings, guys, and do you think it's possible for Russia to support Venezuela's regime, and now that the U.S. changed their rhetoric toward Russia?"
I would doubt it, I think, me personally at least. But I do thank you for support, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Brian Gonzalez, who said, "What do you think about the U.S. potentially messing with the military next week? And it feels like we're in Germany."
I would generally doubt it, and if that happened, that would be absolutely crazy. So that's why I'm generally doubting that will happen. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Don Duvall, who puts in a 5. And Don said, "Here by Edwards Air Force Base, we are seeing a 15 times increase in jets of all types flying the mountain training paths, and lots of C-17s not squawking. And what are your thoughts?"
That's interesting. That could suggest some sort of a possible military maneuver, but we have plenty that could be going on with Venezuela, the Middle East, Russia, China, everywhere. But it generally does show that we're trying to get a little bit more prepared for war, at least. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Big Ron 394, who puts in a 5. And he has a song for the Enforcer to sing. And Enforcer, you can take it away.
At the 20 in the morning, yeah. I think that's the best I can do. But still, a big thanks to you for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to El Sir, who puts in a 5 and said, "Russia is collapsing in 2 fronts. Declared war on NATO, which is also now on high alert, and now literal earthquakes at 9.7 on the September Blizzard scale."
I'd have to agree. It's not good for them. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Brittany Coy, who puts in a 5, who said, let's see here. Sadly, Brittany, I can't read it. It gets too political, but I do understand where you're coming from, though. But thank you very much, Brittany, for that $5 support. And we also have a 5 from Knox Date. And Knox said, "With Russia rushing into an economic collapse, how long would World War III be if Russia really attacks another NATO member?" And LSA, congrats on the subs.
And I thank you for the support. And I'd have to say that World War III probably wouldn't be that long. It'd probably be several months, because it's either going to end in a negotiated settlement, or it's going to end in nuclear destruction, most likely. So I hope that does address that well. Big thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a vibe from Crispy. And Crispy said, congrats, Enforcers, on 500K. Well deserved. And I want to see that new plaque.
And honestly, we don't get another plaque until 1 million. I hope to see it. I hope to see it. It's a big gold plaque. A big, beautiful gold plaque. It's gold. It's what we're looking for. It's what we need. Silver is crap. Gold is everything. But a big thanks to you for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Jack Ragnarsson, who said, congrats on 500K, well earned, and love the channel and watch it virtually every night, and the most reliable place for news in LSA.
And thank you for the kind words, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from a 2 hot dog guys, 1 cup of snow. He said, a little something to, I can't read that first part. They said, Slava Ukraine, LLT LSA, and thanks for keeping us up to date on the news.
And long live the Lee Spring Army, and thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, someone took shots at me just now in the live chat. They said, you profess to be a history expert, yet you don't know about the Rough Riders, and it was Theodore Roosevelt. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not the history expert. That's the Enforcer's wheelhouse. I'm the political science guy, and we don't memorize historical facts. But I will say this: I did. I did know that.
Sorry. I thought you were stopping.
Thank you. I didn't know that Theodore Roosevelt was the Rough Riders guy, but I couldn't remember it right off the bat. So, that is the thing. But Enforcer, what were you trying to say?
I was busy trying to pull up the Spaceballs, guys. So when he asked that question, my mind wasn't even on answering that. But that's really sad. like you're not gonna give like a deference to be like, oh, maybe they were like busy, or they had a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you know this, but we're managing 1,000 chats a minute during that point in the show, and about 26,000 people live, and we're having to think about what we're saying, and we're having to think about the jokes we're doing, and I'm also having to think about where the show is heading, like as far as my monologue, and also Enforcer Matt's having to moderate the chat, and also collect super chats and put them in the spreadsheet, and he's also having to figure out where the show's going and what polls he's making. So, I mean, we don't really have a lot of time to really think about that kind of stuff sometimes. So, a little bit weird. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Oh, man. Also, by the way, I saw something in the chat there that killed me, but this one goes to Super Creech, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Super Creech, for that $5 support, and we do appreciate that very, very much. We also have a 5 from Crispy, who said, amazing journey, Enforcers, and 500,000 congrats.
Hey, thank you so much for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And it's a great thing to see 500,000 and hopefully 500 more. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And also, Matthew, what in the world are you laughing at even?
Oh, I'm just gonna say it outright, man. You kept butting in like when I was trying to talk just a minute ago. I was fighting for airspace, man. I was fighting for it, man.
Dude, I thought you were done.
Kept coming in there like the Russians and the airspace and NATO, man. I tell you what.
Dude, I thought you were done, man. Like you said something, you're like, oh, they thought I was wrong, and then you took like a 2-second pause. Which I was like, okay, well, you must be done then, because, you never pause, no one ever pauses talking once they start on air. So I started talking, then you started talking, and then you stopped.
You were
then
persistent.
I was like, I don't know. I mean, there was a long enough pause there. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I guess he's done. And I don't want to leave a 5-second pause to see if you are done, because that's dead space. So I was like, I gotta immediately jump in and get going, get rolling. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to NK Production, who puts in the 5. And thank you very much, Mr. North Korean Productions, for that support. They said, Kim says Russia is bluffing, and they don't have enough men, fuel, ammo, equipment, etc. But I still understand why they threaten NATO, love, and LSA.
And they're threatening NATO because it's a last resort, generally. But a big thanks to you once again for support and helping the channel to keep on running. Long live the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, big shout out to that bus driver who put in a 5, by the way, and thank you very much for that support as well. I did come in after the cutoff, but we appreciate that support. We also have a 5 from Joey Hadsell, who said, why would the Russians do this? This makes no sense for them at all. Their economy is failing, and they're losing Ukraine. Now they want a war with NATO.
It's a last-ditch effort to try and save their situation, because they're either collapsing through nuclear annihilation at this point or economic collapse. So they're collapsing either way, so they're going to go with a chance that might get them something in the end. So with that, a big thanks to you once again for support, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Robert Krogan, who puts in a 3, and also Matthew Schmidt, who put in a 3 as well. And we appreciate the both of you very much for supporting the channel, and thank you once again. And we also have a 2 from Andrew Humans, and he said, thank you for being a part of my nighttime routine.
Hey, and thank you for enjoying us and making us a part of your nighttime routine. So a huge thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Alex Edwards, who puts in a 2. He said, congratulations on over 500,000 subs.
Hey, thank you so much for your support, and thank you for the congrats on over 500,000 subs, and hopefully we'll be moving onwards and upwards from here. So huge thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one, also, by the way, T. Beery said, how do you look after World War III? Hopefully I look alive, hopefully. Seriously, hopefully I look alive. But moving on to our next one here, this one goes to Kieran Whitfield, who puts in a 2, who said LSA.
And long live the Lee Spring Army, and a huge thanks to you once again, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to 535 Medic, who puts in a 2, who said, Russia, it ain't got no gas in it.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it. But still, a big thanks to you for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, shout out to Kevin Luciano for putting in a 5 as well. It came in beyond the cutoff, but thank you very much, Kevin, for that support. We do appreciate that. We also have a 2 from Some Person You Hate. I don't hate anybody, but thank you very much for that $2 support. They said my subscription fee.
Hey, and thank you so much for support. And you don't even have to pay a subscription fee, but we're greatly appreciative. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to War Ghost Squad, who puts in a 2. He said, my 2 cents count.
And they do. And a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep rolling. And we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Dan Brooks, who puts in a 2 and does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Dan Brooks, for that support. And we also have a 2 from 535 Medic once again, who said it's called something. Let me see what this means real quick. Let's see.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Cease and desist.
It says called. It's called push water.
Whoa, Jack, you gotta get the water, you gotta push it. But beyond that, big thanks to you for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a 2 from El Kasur, who said marmots are food in some parts of Mongolia.
Oh, I know. He actually pulled that up before, and it was grotesque, really. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I got to point this out. My brain, we got thrown for a loop by this one. Someone in the chat said it was Tiberius. They said, Matt, I'm not trying to be around for World War III. I'm sorry, my friend. It's not something you can opt out of. Like, you can't opt out of that. You have no option. You have to. You have to see World War III if you're around. So, sadly, there is no option of I'll pass on this piece of this food this time. I'll pass on that. But honestly, no, like it is what it is. Like, if it comes around, it comes around. If it doesn't come around, then great. But if it does, we just got to deal with it. Sadly, there is no opt-out of this thing. We sort of just got to ride it out, you know what I mean? But anyways, moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Original Nosferatu, who puts in a 2, who said, how many refineries does Russia have left?
About 70% of them at this point. 70 to 75% of them are operational. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Sheba, who puts in a 2, and simply said Russian Special Forces. And I'll finish your sentence. And Russian Special Forces suck. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd agree with that 100%. Send that man to the White House. But a big thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Adam, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Adam, for that $2 support. And also a shout out to Mello, who put in a 1 as well. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support as well. We also have a 2 from two hot dog guys, one cup of snow, who said, for liberty and justice for all. LLT, LSA.
And amen for liberty and justice. So a big thanks to you once again. We are on to the next one.
And believe it or not, that is our last super chat to address. So once again, a huge shout out to all 105 of all of our super chatters tonight. And we do appreciate every single one of y'all very much for helping to make this channel possible and keeping us on the air. So that way we can keep on yapping the news and also going through the question segments as well. We appreciate that very much. It's now time to get some live chat questions and see what everybody else said as well. But first of all, we got to get our Morse code decoders. Tonight, Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Araba Garbo, Her Royal Fluffiness, Kush, Kupyansk, and Sire. They said, the Morse says, thank you to the 500,000 who are the beating heart of the LSA and on to 1 million and LSA.
And That is the sound of money, and y'all got that down on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. I gotta congratulate everyone once again for being a part of the Lead Spring Army of 500,000 strong, and hopefully we'll have another 500,000 before the end of the next year. And so a massive thanks to all of y'all so much once again to the Lead Spring Army Signal Corps for getting that correct. This is an absolutely amazing and incredible thing to know that so many people continue to get that correct time and time again, and have been getting that correct for years and years on end. As long as this channel has been running and covering the news, y'all have always been out here getting those little dots and dashes and turning them into a sentence. So a massive thanks to y'all all once again. And with that, it's time for us to get on into the live chat questions. Due to time constraints tonight, unfortunately, folks, we'll only be able to get 3 live chat questions, and then we'll be having to round out the stream. I know, it's incredibly unfortunate. But if you would like to answer a question again, or you would like to watch the stream again, which we'd be greatly fortunate to have you all here once again, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and the bell button, because you will be notified when the stream runs tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, because we'll be making sure to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world once again, as we always have. And so with that, Matthew, take it away and bring us to the third to last question of the night.
And this one is going to go to Dejifix, who said, if Russia pushes further and triggers NATO Article 5, will China and North Korea back Russia up?
I would generally say I think that they would, at least in my opinion. If the Russian Federation appears to be putting itself in an incredibly difficult pickle, the People's Republic of China may actually decide to support the Russians full on, but that's a little bit of a questionability. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea would definitely back the Russian Federation as they are right now, and they also have their own nuclear umbrella and shield to be able to protect themselves even if things went badly for Russia. So generally, North Korea definitely would, and China's a little bit on the fence with that. We would have to see. But I hope that does address that the best I can, and with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
This one goes to Canada is Sovereign, who said, has NATO or Europe made a statement on Russia wanting to claim all of Moldova?
We have not heard of any statements being made at the moment about that situation, but we are going to be waiting to see if there will be any developments out of Moldova, the Moldovan Foreign Ministry, or any other institutions for that matter. They're dealing with that situation currently. So, unfortunately, we would have to declare ignorance on that at the moment. And so with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And this one goes to Brian, who said, why has the suggestion never been made to at least chase these drones down over Danish airspace? It applies no hostility and can provide amazing intel about where they came from.
That is a great question, and the general problem with that is that these helicopters, well, generally, the Danish are mobilizing aircraft to try and hunt them down. Aircraft actually can't track these down because they're going too slow, so it's impossible for an aircraft to really follow them around. They have to pretty much conduct orbits around them and eventually lose line of sight every time they're conducting an orbit, possibly. And with helicopters, the problem is that they have to find them in the first place, and from what we have heard recently, at least what's being said publicly in Denmark, it seems as though the drones are a little bit slippery and that they can evade the helicopters. So that's kind of the problem why they're not following them down. They're trying, but it's just that they can't. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, folks, it is the end of tonight's stream. We still have 10,000 people here right now, even rounding out this stream, which is unbelievable. That's a huge number of people. And I gotta say, a massive thanks to all 26.3 thousand people who are here tonight at the peak, and the 187,000 people who have watched this stream so far. We're entirely honored and greatly appreciative to have had each and every single one of y'all here over the multiple years that this channel has been running. 1,310 days of continuous news coverage. And we will, of course, be seeing you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world. And if we have enough news tomorrow, y'all will be seeing me in the short war video. And so with that, we will see you all then. And once again, a big congratulations to the whole of the Lead Spring Army for 500,000 subs. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, Hurram Slava. Long live the Lead Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And I want to thank you all for joining us once again tonight. And once again, folks, a huge shout out for helping us to hit that 504,000 subscriber number right there. That is insane to see that. And a huge shout out to y'all all once again for making that possible. And we will see you all tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern on our next nightly war news stream for the rest of the war news coverage. And the Enforcer will very likely see you tomorrow on a short war video midday, because I would be shocked if tomorrow suddenly went quiet after all these major escalations. So probably a short war video coming out soon. But with that, folks, thank you all for joining us, and all nearly 200,000 people that were here by the end of the stream. A whopping amount of people here tonight, and we appreciate every single one of you. And with that, Slava Ukraine, here I'm Slava. Get some rest, and good night.